You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
Do not forget. Expect us.
This is a message to all supporters. A message to all freedom fighters, to all dissenters, to all forgotten. A call to all intellectuals, to all journalists. A call to all freethinkers. A call for intelligence. This is a call to all poets. A call to the strong and the weak. A call to all young people. To the wise, to the astucious. We want you to join us. We are on the streets of Tokyo. In the skyscrapers of New York. In the lanes of Paris. In the cellars of Munich. On Moscow's icy places. On the cobbled streets of Dublin. This is a call to all people. To the youth. Join us in the fight for freedom of information. Search for us, and you will find us. We are among you. We are you. Everyone you speak with can be a member of Anonymous. We have no leaders, only an orientation. We have no targets, only results. You cannot stop us, because we are an idea. We cannot be eliminated, because we are invisible. If you try to mock us, we will mock ourselves. If you try to slander us, we will accept the defamation. We are the king's jesters with daggers. We are the dancing bear which tears to pieces the laughing mob. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us, just as we expect you.
councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Sorry, and we are live. Welcome to Anonymous Bites Back episode. We don't even know anymore because we've been going into so many specials and doing the Asian show and in the North American show. I've lost count of the episodes we have done. No, really, like I would have to, go back and count for the last 2 or 3 months. But hey, Aaron, you want to introduce the guest? I have some things I need to do on the back end.
Sure. This is Kristine Phillips. She is working with helping homeless people, or I'm sorry, not homeless people, disabled people be able to find work. And she also worked at Facebook and Amazon. Did you want to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, thanks. And thanks for having me on this show. Again, my name's Kristine Phillips. I worked for big tech. I worked for both Facebook and Amazon. Specifically, I worked in HR, so I really had a behind the scenes view of both companies and what they were like. I built the accommodations program, and not only did I witness, but I suffered a lot of disability and racial discrimination working there.
Now, tell us about some of the discrimination that you faced while working at Facebook, and then we'll go into Amazon.
Well, specifically at Facebook, what I faced, and it was a variety, and it wasn't just singular to disability discrimination. I had to actually launch 3 investigations internally within Facebook for 3 different managers. And at first it was disability discrimination, where I asked for an accommodation, and then I lost all of my career promotional opportunities, like any promotions that I was lined up for. I even had to leave the department that I was in. And then I went over to another manager, and I experienced racial discrimination and in the form of performance review retaliation. And then the last piece was with L&D, and it was racial and disability discrimination.
Interesting. Okay. And what about Amazon?
Well, Amazon, I faced pay discrimination, and I was significantly underpaid compared to my male counterparts that did the same job. Like I was an HRBP in Texas, and I made $65,000, and I was talking to a male counterpart who I knew from when I worked in Arizona, because when you work for Amazon, you really have to travel in order to get promoted, be willing to move. And he made $85,000. So he made a significant amount more. And I have a master's degree and he didn't. So I had a higher level of education than he did.
Okay, so then he was just getting paid more, kind of just because he either knew people there, or maybe it was just because he's a male, or is it what do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't credentials, because we had the same experience, and I in fact had, different experience than he did. I really believe it was because he was a male, and he was favored by the rest of the males that were in HR at that time in Texas. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. And jumping off of Amazon and Facebook, what are you doing to help disabled people find work?
Well, right now I'm kind of just trying to rebuild my life after this Facebook thing, because I reported them, because I went to the EEOC. I have been completely blackballed from tech and HR jobs. So I had to move, and I'm picking myself up. And part of that is, really trying to do some advocacy work in the disability field. And so I'm just getting started, but I try to consult and help those with disabilities.
Okay. Okay. And a couple of questions that we had in regards to, we're not sure if you know the inner workings of Facebook or not, but a lot of us have witnessed over the years Facebook selling our user data and the censorship and stuff like that. Do you have any like insight into any of that?
Yeah, I was there through all of like the drama that happened from 2016 on with Cambridge Analytica, and then all of the other catastrophes that happened with Facebook. So I was there through 2016 through 2019. So I was able to see a lot, understand the narrative they're trying to push. And so, you know, I'm open to any questions. If I can answer them, I will.
Awesome. What do you think in regards to the censorship argument of Facebook? Is it true that they are actually shadow banning accounts and kind of suppressing certain accounts?
So I don't have knowledge that happens, but I like direct knowledge, meaning I was an engineer that worked on the algorithms, but from other friends that I've spoken to, specifically friends that worked in Facebook that were advocacy people who wanted to tell the truth about Facebook. They definitely shadow banned. They took down posts from people who left. And so if they're going to do that to us internally, what makes you think that they don't do it externally, right? To other accounts and whatnot. Yeah. So we were pretty censored as employees, and I do have knowledge that they have taken down posts. They've deleted things that people have posted on their Facebook that were former employees to hide the negative press that they were trying to tell us.
This is an odd one, and this is something that I've been trying to cover, but this a lot of people don't hear about this. A little bit earlier this year, I think it was late last year, some of the majority shareholders were, when the company's stock was falling, they were telling Mark Zuckerberg to stand down and Sharon Sandberg to step up as the new company CEO. Do you believe that Mark Zuckerberg is actually ruining the company? Because I've heard this for the last 5 years.
You know, I'll my honest opinion, it's both of them. I don't think she's any better than him. She has the same business practices of stealing people's ideas and then driving them to the end. So she definitely has that business mindset, just as he does. I think they're making horrible ideas. They're not business leaders, and they don't listen to other people. And she will joke about that. Like when we used to have all hands, like she would actually come and joke about that. Like, oh, I got feedback. I'm such a horrible person. I need to stop taking other people's work. And so I think it's both of them that I just don't think they're good leaders. I don't think they're the right fit for what Facebook needs now. And so I just don't think it's Mark. I think it's her as well.
Go ahead.
So then the problem... Go ahead, Tyler.
No, go ahead. I was just you go ahead.
I was going to say, so then the problem wouldn't be fixed by replacing Mark Zuckerberg, because she's also an issue that's holding Facebook back from being a free and open company. Like the thing is, like when Facebook first started, they weren't censoring and they weren't involved in all of this. I kind of feel like selling user data as much as they are now. They were selling user data, as far as I know, with the various scandals that came out years ago. Like I think it was 2009 was the first data scandal, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it's a very interesting perspective to get from you that they both kind of share the same mindset, and both of them would have to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody else see this or have that opinion? I'm curious, or because I've seen how she is internally, and I see what she talks about in her all hands, and specifically, she would come to talk to HR, and so just the fact that somebody could joke about that and think that that's funny, like people are giving you this horrible feedback that they hate working with you because you steal their ideas, I think is a real problem.
Absolutely. Anybody else wants to jump in and ask questions? Go ahead.
Hold on. Let me go back over some of these notes. Gosh. Now you say you're doing a startup for disabled people to try and get them jobs.
Well, yeah, because I'm an ADA. Well, I have expertise in ADA and I understand the accommodation space. So I'm toying around with ideas where I could possibly do that because I have, after working there, I was actually just diagnosed with chronic PTSD, and I cannot go back to a corporate environment without having suicidal ideations. So my therapist determined not a good idea. And so I'm trying to figure out what can I do with the experience that I have since Facebook literally destroyed everything that I had, because I've never had chronic PTSD. I mean, this is a new diagnosis for me. And it significantly impacts my life to the point where I can't work in corporate America anymore.
Well, in regards to that, you can't work in an office environment where it's run by people like Amazon and Facebook. But how do you think you would do in another type of office environment that is a better company, so to speak, where they have better management skills? Because we've heard before that both Amazon and Facebook kind of get criticized for the management skills. So I just kind of wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, they really did a number on me. And I'm actually going to drop a video tomorrow that really explains white collar PTSD. And I kind of summarized like everything that I went through for the 3 years. I think that I can only truly function and flourish in something that I develop myself, or I'm my own boss. I can't. It was 3 years of having to prove that I can do my job every day to everyone, right? And fighting for my jobs, like I don't have performance issues, and proving it. And when you're in that kind of environment, fighting for your life for 3 years, it really I just don't think I can do it. Management or not, I feel that my best bet is to develop my own business to give myself the freedom, because I have triggers.
Right. Well, that makes sense. A lot of people feel that way when you have to deal with upper management kind of issues and people kind of putting expectations on you constantly. It wears you down.
Right. And so what I did is tied to the ADA, right? And the ADAA, which is basically, it's riddled with litigation. So here's the deal. I'm responsible for these cases. I can be sued independently and with Facebook, but I had no authority to make that decision. Living with that type of stress and anxiety is just overwhelming,
That's crazy. So you just said that you yourself could get sued along with Facebook.
Exactly. Yep. They could take a personal lawsuit against me for disability discrimination.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the people that were responsible for the decisions were employment law, not me, but I'm still legally held responsible.
That is crazy. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know HR laws very well.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I was just surprised and shocked at that. do you think that Facebook's business model is to destroy other companies it acquires?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm still questioning what has Facebook invented since they invented Facebook. Everything has been from WhatsApp to Oculus to Instagram. What were they doing? The only thing they created was Libra, but that didn't kick off. So I don't feel like that really counts yet. I mean, everything.
Yeah, that's an ongoing project.
Right. But I mean, look at what they tried to do with Snapchat. I mean, they tried to buy them out and they said, absolutely not, So what they do is they steal features from other products to integrate it in their products.
Yeah, I know that firsthand, actually. I'm working on a social media app with another CEO. And they stole some of our ideas and implemented them into, and we're a small company, so it's crazy and shocking to see that. But he said it himself. He said that I've seen it myself. We release a feature, and then all of a sudden, Facebook releases a feature. Like,
absolutely. I mean, they basically, that's what they do. Their whole business model. I mean, from me too. I mean, they stole my program. They had me build a program and a tool and they stole it. And then they had people joke in front of me, the attorneys, like, wouldn't it be funny if we use her to build this and then we fire her? I mean, this is the behaviors that they do. And I'm not surprised that they steal your features.
That's absolutely insane. That's crazy. So they actually had you build software for them and then use the software and then they fired you for it, basically.
Well, yeah, under the guise of performance problems and all of that, which I have all the receipts for that I didn't have.
Right.
Yeah, because I did a lot of tool design. So I'm not just HR. Like I built a couple of tools for learning and development for them, one, and then for the accommodations. So they stole 2 of my tools that I developed.
That is crazy. What are your thoughts on Facebook's censorship? Just as a personal opinion, what are your personal thoughts on the ongoing censorship that's happening at Facebook? Like not just workers, but also users.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you remember that HUD lawsuit where they were found to discriminate against Black users with housing and job advertisements. So for me, what I really think what the censorship is that they hired a very conservative company to do this, and they're going to push a certain narrative, is what I believe. And they're going to control what we consume. And I just don't believe that. I feel that there's going to be disparities in reporting and what they do mark as like misinformation or not. And I think a lot of people are going to be targeted, like who don't agree with their narrative.
Yeah, I've actually seen that firsthand myself. And Tyler or anybody else, if you want to jump in and ask questions, go ahead. But I was just kind of rattling things off. I've seen that myself in regards to them censoring legitimate information. Mm-hmm. And it's scary because it's like all of a sudden now we have fact checkers, and some of these fact checkers can't even use a search engine, or they don't even understand scientific terms. I was censored for a scientific article on airburst saying that two meteorites or meteors were going to fly over the Earth and could cause an airburst. And I said NASA warns. And these fact checkers spun my article into that I said that meteors were going to hit the Earth. And I was just like, what is this? Like, how are you guys able to legally do this?
And this is the problem with it, because, and I get what you're saying, and I see it all the time. I see legitimate news articles that are spun, and then they're, it's disinformation. But what's scary is that they've gotten away with this internally, right? Like if you think about it, the government said, like, I think there's discrimination going on, like, let's do whatever. And they hired their own team. They've been able to write their own narrative and make their own rules and play by their own rules for years. And no one will do anything about it.
Yeah,
And
that's a scary thought too.
Yeah, and they want to control the narrative of the information we're going to consume. It's almost, I feel like it's a power trip. It's really sick.
Yeah, I feel the same way exactly as you do. That's a power trip. And we also started to see Mark Zuckerberg say that he wants to run for president. He had like these goals that he wanted for the world and everything. Like, did you see did you see his goals for the world?
No, I didn't see
Between
that.
him and Bill Gates, I just don't know who to focus my efforts on. But no, I haven't. I definitely have to check that out. But let me tell you something, okay? What I know is that Mark is not authentic when he speaks.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Every word. This isn't even a real person. I feel like this is a persona that all these people made up, that he has to memorize what they say, because I actually had friends that worked with him and did this stuff. And it's just like, how can this fake persona be president? Like, he can't even run his company right, but yet he wants to fix the world. This is crazy.
That would be Donald Trump version 2.0.
I think even worse, honestly. Like, I'm not a Trump fan, but this guy is I think he's on par with Bill Gates, to be honest with you. I don't know why I feel that, but there's a lot of similarities that I feel between them.
Yeah, they both have very interesting investments. I'm working on an article on Bill Gates right now myself, and I just now found out that he invested millions of dollars into Monsanto, and apparently he's running an agricultural organization. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, he's got,
sorry.
Yeah, he's got all the investments into pharmaceutical, food. Like, he's trying to control the system in a way, the current system that we live in various different ways. And he's also involved in global warming as well. So it's crazy how much money is being poured into these programs by these quote unquote philanthropists, like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. And Jeff Bezos is another one. And it's funny because when they do donate money, right, they don't donate any more than 1% of their wealth.
Right. It's chump change, right? It's chump change.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then they try to kind of say, oh, I'm doing good for the world. And it's like, you still have about a couple million, or in Jeff Bezos' case, I think he's now a billionaire, right? So, I mean, it's crazy. And then we see the way that these people treat their workers, and it's absolute insanity. Like, for instance, you worked also at Amazon, right? What are your thoughts about Amazon and the way they treat their workers?
Well, Amazon's interesting and different in many ways. So I worked as an HRBP in the facilities, and I mean, it was just, I couldn't do it anymore. It was just really, it wasn't humane treatment. They would set performance goals that a human could not possibly hit in an 8-hour shift. And literally, I would get complaints that people were urinating on the floor, like in bottles, like women would complain. Because some of these people were afraid to leave to go to the bathroom because it would impact their rate, right? And when they evaluate their performance, this is done on a weekly basis. And if you rack up 3 performance violations, you're gone. So in 3 weeks, you could have a job, and then 3 weeks later, you don't have a job. So I think the treatment there is different. and but it's the same, but it's to a different group of employees.
Right. Yeah, because Amazon has to do with stocking, and Facebook is just kind of social media management. Now, in regards to what you just said about the way Amazon kind of puts expectations above their employees, do you think that this is because they're moving a lot more towards automation and robots doing work that human workers cannot kind of keep up with the robots?
Oh, absolutely. When I worked for Amazon, I was over at DFW 7, and they already started implementing the robots, right? For the pickers to bring over the stacks of a product for them to pick. And so they're definitely, and they were able to streamline their intake process, and that reduced positions. So absolutely, they're on their way. They keep it high because truly the fulfillment centers drain money. Amazon doesn't make all of its money, or at one point it didn't make its money from the fulfillment centers.
Right. And do you think that because they're using robots in combination with human workers, that kind of the robots are making the humans kind of have to work faster than normal?
No, they always had these unrealistic expectations before Kiva came out.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So these expectations and these performance reviews were happening well before they developed Kiva at DFW 7.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have here?
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kristine, you might not, or it's Kristine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You might not know the answers to this question. This is something that I've been kind of weirded out about for about, I don't know, the last, maybe since 2012. A lot of people in the black hat and white hat community have noted this, that the Facebook Messenger app has been unencrypted for ever since it's been out. Since it's been the application has, since the application has rooted itself from Facebook, and it's a completely separate app. But it wasn't in question until the shareholders questioned Mark Zuckerberg about it, that he said he would change it in 2019. Here it is, May 2020. It still hasn't changed. Anybody who has a 0 day could take those in conversations and read it for fair value because it's unencrypted. Do you think that that's by Mark Zuckerberg, or do you think that this is some just like dispute between the programmers and what the company wants to do, or do you think it's done intentionally?
That is so strange, and I don't have like the exact answer, but what I did tell you is my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, this really feels like this is intentional, because this isn't something that's difficult to do, and it was supposed to be done in 2019.
Yeah.
And wasn't Facebook's charge back in 2018 and 2019 after Cambridge Analytica, like that whole thing was encryption protection, right? And then all these different efforts to protect privacy. And I honestly believe they did have a team that was devoted to do that with Messenger. So that's why I feel it's intentional.
It makes no sense. I mean, they really don't have to redesign it. They really don't have to do the plugins. That it's literally maybe a half day they could fix it all. Right.
We also know that Facebook, it's been admitted that they scan messages with a bot, so they say, an algorithm bot, and scan messages for like suspicious messages and virus links and stuff like that. So, if they were to implement encryption, they would still have some type of a back door into it.
Right. So that's what makes me feel like this is intentional and something deeper. There's something deeper. It's nefarious. It's almost, there's no reason for it not to be fixed by now. I mean, I remember in an all hand Mark basically said that he was going to devote different teams to make sure that we had encryption and protection and all of this to change the narrative from what happened with, Cambridge. So
Yeah, because that was a huge scandal.
Yeah, and it was a big breach of trust, right? So he's like, in order for us to build trust back, I'm really going to focus on security. And so.
And none of that happened.
No.
None of it. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, and we also know that over 100 developers had access to all the user data that they could ever want. And on top of that, there was special deals made with major big companies like BlackBerry and other cell phone providers and companies where they were able to access all user data. It's crazy how much user data they've sold and that they haven't gotten in trouble for it. They got a slap on the wrist from the FCC.
Right. And believe me, that fine where everybody is like 5 billion, that's nothing for them.
Absolutely.
When I worked in L&D, the budget was 5 million. And quite frankly, I don't know if that money was for good use or not, because we were just throwing it to the wind because we could.
Yeah, it's crazy that they got a slap on the wrist for $5 million. How fast do you think that Facebook makes $5 million? Within how many months or how many days?
Yeah, I think it's days, to be honest.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Where we're at now with all the advertising and online usage, and what's really sick is that where can anybody else go during this time? For social media. I mean, he's got the market cornered. Like, it's either Facebook or Instagram. And, Snapchat's great, but I'm talking a forum where people can come together. And then there's Twitter, but he really just has a corner on this market here.
Yeah, maybe YouTube, but I mean, like, Facebook is even taking over the whole video market now on that part.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, Facebook, more and more people use Facebook to view videos too, and because Facebook has more like an internal network, and you can't really embed videos on other sites. People are forced to sign up to Facebook to watch videos without any issues, right? Without having these weird pop-ups and stuff. So they're all drawing them in, honeypotting them.
Right, especially during the pandemic, right? Like, everybody's going to Facebook. All of these governors are like, come watch my Facebook Live. And it's drawing in users, and he's exploiting this pandemic to rewrite his narrative and become the savior and the good guy from all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, there's also proof that we had that came out, I think it was last year, where Facebook was paying independent contractors, just like Amazon and Apple, to listen to conversations, and the code name for the project was actually known as Prism. Do you know anything about this? And is this connected to the National Security Agency's Prism? Because it has the same name, and I was very curious about that.
Yeah, that one I don't know about. Now, if you want to ask me about Building 8, I know about that. But this one, that was kept pretty under the covers. Not too many people knew about that story, to be honest, that worked there.
Interesting. Okay. What is Building 8? Because I don't even know what that is, to be honest.
So Building 8 was a building where I don't know if you heard of the story, they had AI, they were testing, they developed their own rogue language, and they had to unplug it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the place where it's like its own company within Facebook. It's just...
Interesting.
It's strange there. It the guys that work there, and it's all guys, it's like Lord of the Flies. It's just really strange.
A lot of different jobs.
Yeah, and they cannibalize other engineers there. It's like I know somebody that was in that environment. I had to support them, and he came out of there with some severe mental health issues because it was crazy in there.
Interesting.
This is like a kind of like a special operations building, and I think Amazon has like a similar thing, right? I think it's actually called Amazon Skunk Works, kind of like.
It's a skunk work, yeah.
Yeah.
So they come up with like high level projects, AI, all of that stuff, and they develop it out of there. So that's what they do there. But they try to deny that it exists and it's part of another department, but it really isn't. It's a secret department within Facebook that they never admit to.
Interesting. And in regards to Amazon Skunk Works, they are now actually working on I read that they were working on a universal vaccine to do away with all types of viruses and the common cold. Do you know anything about that?
No, I think so. When I was at Amazon, I was there from 2013 to 2016, and then I was recruited over. So I think that was, that was after me. I know they started that medical piece. They were starting to drum up that whole medical piece with Amazon, but that's all that I knew.
Well, we know that go ahead.
No, just real quick. Like, I'm not sure if it asked already, but what was the reason for you to switch from Amazon to Facebook?
Well, one, I was getting paid like $20,000 less than males that were similarly situated. And then I was actively recruited over by Facebook, and they offered me like $70,000 more, and it made sense. I was living in Northern California, and so I did it, and I took the risk.
So they actually went out and recruited another company's employee, basically?
Well, that's what they do. So everybody, most of the people, like when I was there from 2016 to 2019, everybody's handpicked, and everybody is from, they do that. They poach them from different companies, from Amazon, from Google, and they seek you out on your LinkedIn. I was actively approached by a recruiter on LinkedIn.
Huh.
Yeah, I find that odd now that tech companies a lot of them require either you to have a LinkedIn or a Facebook.
Right?
Yeah, it is odd.
And so go ahead.
I was just going to say LinkedIn is used for businesses more than Facebook, but we're starting to see Facebook kind of try to take away from LinkedIn's market as well. By expanding business features and stuff like that. So yeah, that makes sense that they kind of require you to have a LinkedIn or a Facebook because Facebook's trying to position itself as the go-to solution for everything. Like Mark said earlier, video. They're actually now paying people who create videos, video creators, for ad share revenue now. They weren't doing that before. So again, I think that they're kind of starting to steal from the companies that are emerging now because the companies that kind of coming out of decentralized tech, they are sharing the revenue with users. And I think Facebook is going to start doing that as well to a certain degree in regards to videos and stuff like that, because they want to keep their users. Because right now it doesn't make sense. It's like you're posting on Facebook, and they're selling your user data, but you're getting nothing in return. You know?
Right? Why are we doing this? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I mean, so what's interesting is you said something interesting. They're trying to go to be like the go-to be all for everyone, and that feels a lot like Amazon. And I feel like dividing up the markets, right? Like Facebook can have, the social media, the advertising, the media, because like they control the media now. I mean, I know they do because I've tried to go to the media with my story, and wasn't able to get very far with recommendations to reporters. And so I just feel like they're trying to corner every market, like Marketplace, or what that new feature, that selling feature that they have, Libra, that they're still trying to push down everybody's throat. So I really think they're trying to take another piece of the market share from Amazon. That Amazon is touching.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And with Libra, they're trying to be the payment solution, which is scary because then it's like, okay, not only does Facebook know what you're looking at online and what you're posting on your social media profile, but now it knows what your purchases are, so it can direct ads to you based off of your purchases. You know, like it's scary. It really is scary.
And talking about controlling the media, there's not any media outlet with access to so many different people at once, and so they have the ability to do that. Literally, they can decide what they actually broadcast on Facebook. I mean, they decide the full narrative there.
Yeah. So what you're seeing now, all of this control, all of this exploitation, is truly how Facebook is internally.
Yeah.
So they're just showing you their inner workings of how that's how they treat employees. That's what it's like to work there. Like you bring up an investigation and they have their own investigators that find nothing, and you're left with, I kind of like what they do with this Supreme Court that they have, where they're deciding, they're controlling everything. This is a direct representation of what it's like to work there.
Yeah, and the compartmentalization that you mentioned, it kind of reminds me of intelligence agencies, to be honest. And just to put this out there, In-Q-Tel funded Facebook. Like, that's on the record. They funded Facebook. And I want to know what In-Q-Tel got in return for funding Facebook. Because, In-Q-Tel is not going to just fund a venture I don't know the word I'm looking for. A business, right? It's not going to just fund a business with nothing in return. And they're involved in data capture. So I want to know what went on there and kind of what In-Q-Tel got in the deal.
Right. I don't know about that. And in fact, I didn't even know that till you said that, that In-Q-Tel was part of the deal with Facebook. No clue. So, wow.
Yeah, In-Q-Tel is also the funding arm for the CIA. So that's why I want to know what Facebook gave In-Q-Tel in that deal. Because everybody says, like, the whole conspiracy that Facebook is LifeLog, the DARPA project, right? But then they say, oh, well, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But then you have the funding here from In-Q-Tel, and it's like, well, if In-Q-Tel funded Facebook, why couldn't it have been the DARPA's LifeLog project? Because DARPA's LifeLog stopped when Facebook started.
Right.
And that's very suspicious.
Yeah, very suspect. Well, it's really concerning how much power Facebook is yielding after this coronavirus, and I just think we all need to be very awake and aware of what's going on. And I mean, they bought mind control software, right?
Yep.
So what the hell is that for? Like, what are you going to do with that? And the Facebook said, well, we're going to use it so that, paraplegics can control the computer. But like, I just don't believe that at all. They want to know what you're doing. When I worked there,
and what you're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, they would follow me through. If they couldn't find me at my desk, they would send my manager or people that I know out looking for me if they couldn't find me on any of the cameras. They would send spies to ask me questions at work.
That's crazy.
And I caught one of the spies and I said, well, don't tell them I said this. And she's like, oh, no, girl, I wouldn't. And I go, gotcha. And I walked away. And so this is not unusual. They do this with their employees. So I absolutely believe they're spying on all of us. I don't even have the app on my phone anymore.
Well, like I said earlier, they were transcribing audio messages that people were sending a messenger, like paid a private company under what they codenamed Prism. And I'm curious if that's connected to, again, the NSA because of this funding from In-Q-Tel, number one. And then number two, it uses the same name as the NSA program Prism. So I'm just very interested if there's a connection there or not. And I think it makes sense to question that because they're doing so much spying there at Facebook.
Yeah, and they absolutely are. And I do think it's a good question. But how do you find out? How do you find out? Because I don't even have that.
Seems like there'd be a contract, in one of the federal registers, that would say, Facebook's under contract for certain projects or.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just take a while to dig into something like that. Yep.
Well, we know about the connections with like the Atlantic Council, for example, and we know about the Cambridge Analytica. They're obviously connected to all these government groups, lobby groups, and security groups. So it's not really surprising to have In-Q-Tel also be involved with them. But I'm thinking that it isn't even restricted to the USA, probably. It's also involved, similar groups from other countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask in regards to Amazon, we're starting to see Amazon expand into the surveillance with Ring and with, I think it's called Amazon Facial Recognition, I believe it is, that's being used by federal police and local police. What are your thoughts on what they're building? And do you know any information in regards to that department that is within Amazon?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any information about that department, but I was living in the Bay Area when all of that was going down and working at Facebook when they started to really protest, what they're using because they specifically were targeting, was used for ICE and whatnot.
Right.
I just think that Amazon and Facebook and all of these companies are working together to create this deep surveillance state, right? And so it ties with, it's almost like they have dossiers on all of us, here's your Amazon Ring stuff and all your information from what you buy from Amazon. And then here's your Facebook information. And I just feel like eventually they're going to have to find a way to collect and aggregate the data so it makes sense.
Now, do you think that maybe they've already done that? Because a lot of these companies are partnered together. And, if you search a certain term, like say, you search for a video on YouTube, right? And then go to Facebook, you might see an ad that's similar to what you just searched.
Yeah, and they could be doing that. It definitely, that's why I brought it up, because I've noticed those trends, like when you go from YouTube to Facebook, or sometimes you're on Twitter, or sometimes,
Right.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. And I just don't know who's doing it or what company they're partnering with to actually combine the data so that it kind of flows seamlessly into our field of view, right? It's like we're bombarded with it. We see it on Facebook, then we see the same ones on Instagram. Then if you go on Twitter, you're seeing the same things. So,
right. And we're painted as crazy for bringing it up. And it's like, no, it's not that difficult for them to aggregate that data, share it with their partners, and then all of a sudden you're seeing ads from another site. And we know that Facebook specifically did that. There was I think it was called Contact ID, or wait, let me just double check what this scandal was called. I wrote a deep dive on all the Facebook scandals. Just give me 1 second. Somebody else can jump in. Let me find this name real quick. You guys can jump in and ask questions.
Yeah, I should. Like, because you mentioned before that the working environment of Facebook was kind of like unique. If you like left your desk, you would be followed by spies and these things. So I'm wondering what was the rest of the working environment like? Like, are there other things which were like kind of unique with Facebook or like shocking?
Well, so, you know, I think what was most shocking for me is that the discriminatory environment that they allow to prosper in there, knowing there's an issue. The disability discrimination that they committed, like they wouldn't hire people that needed an accommodation, and that's illegal, right? You can't do that. I've seen and witnessed extreme discrimination against Black people there.
Okay. What did they say why they wouldn't hire people who needed an accommodation? I would say like if you're like a super big company and like a super coder or something you can recruit, you would offer such a person like an accommodation. I mean, it would be obviously such an asset to the company.
Yeah, they didn't see it that way. I would fight with the managers. Well, I wouldn't fight, but a verbal kind of tug of war of, hey, this is a really good candidate. He has all the skills that you want. And they would basically say no. Or if someone needed an accommodation, I had a manager say, oh, I don't think he wants to go there with me, and ask for that. So they absolutely discouraged it no matter what the talent was.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so I found this scandal. Facebook in 2007, all the way back in 2007, this is like around it when it was first created. They had a software, it was called Beacon. And Beacon was actually basically tracking everybody's web activities outside of the social network on other websites. And what they were doing was sharing users' shopping experiences online on Facebook when they went to a website and purchased an item. This is like a real scandal. So we know that they have done that in the past, right? So my kind of insinuation is that would still be going on, but it's not in the public eye where they're sharing that you purchased this item on your public feed.
Oh, I believe it's still going on in the background.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I would get I know this sounds crazy, but how many times, I feel like it was a year ago or 2 years ago, you would say something, and then I swear to God, when I had Facebook and Instagram apps on my phone, I would get an advertisement for what I just said.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people have reported that. Right.
It's not happening as much, or I don't know if it's happening, because I will not put those apps on my phone. I don't trust them, especially since I have a workers' comp case against them. But I mean, they've sent, let me just kind of how crazy they are about control and knowing what you're doing. They sent a private investigator to talk to my ex-husband, who I haven't even been with for 7 years, to find out information about me. And I was fired from Facebook for a good 6 months.
But then they let you come back?
No, they didn't. No. So what happened is that, okay, so I go through all this discrimination, right? I file all of these investigations. I prove that, hey, I don't have these performance issues. And they terminate me, and they had it planned for performance issues. So 6 months after that, they found my ex-husband, who I haven't been with for 7 years, and sent a private investigator down to Lake Tahoe, California, to ask him questions about me. And he let me know, and he gave me the name of the guy. His name was Dean. I got to look it up. I posted it on my Twitter. But his first name was Dean, and he gave me his first and last name. So that's how crazy they are. They're willing to send physical people to find out about me. Just think what they're doing to everybody online.
Sounds like
Right,
almost
well,
a cultish environment. Like, oh my God, it's like that's way beyond what normal employers should do. That's
right. Yeah, it felt like a cult.
Yeah.
Interesting.
With the whole spy thing too, like you go away from your
Yeah.
desk, you get spied on. It's like super cultish.
I know, right? Like, you guys fired me, and you're going to send an investigator all the way to Lake Tahoe, California, 6 months after you fired me? Like, geez.
Yeah, that's
I can't
crazy.
say I ever saw that, chasing employees, but I mean, I've watched big companies, if they were going after acquisitions or along that line, I mean, they would do a full court press on you, watching managers and people, and they already knew the funding behind the scenes and watching your corporate sales and all. I mean, when a big company comes after you, they really do come after you. But I would see it just like from a business perspective, not going after employees.
Yeah, well, I pissed them off, and
Yeah.
and even though like the traction with my story has been slow, I have made an impact, and they can't control me, and they offer me money, and it's not about the money. It's about, you guys are evil and crooked, and the world needs to know the truth.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. That shows a lot of word I'm looking for. Sorry, I was reading at the same time I was reading that my article, trying to look through different scandals here. I also found in 2010 that Facebook got caught giving advertisers their users' names, ages, hometowns, and occupations just for simply clicking an ad. So if you don't think that that's still going on now, kind of just silently, I don't know what else to say. They've been selling user data since the company inception. Like year after year, there's been scandals of data being sold. And I just don't understand why people keep trusting this company, and why this company hasn't been shut down for various different violations. Because, I mean, wow.
Yeah, I actually let Washington, D.C. know of the scam that I caught them doing with, holding them accountable for all of the violations that they did employment-wise, and they're corrupt. I have documents that I sent to, like, the AG of Washington, D.C., for the State Bar, for the EEOC, for the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and put them on notice, and provided the emails, the trail, pieced it together, and they did absolutely nothing. I sent that back in September 2019, and here we are, and nothing.
Well, we're talking about the same AG, William Barr, who covered up various different CIA scandals in the, I believe it was the 70s and 80s. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Get out of luck, guys. It's not going to happen for me.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he wouldn't do anything. He's kind of like the Washington cover-up guy next to Mueller. Both of them are known within Washington circles as being called the cover-up guy. So, I mean, they've over the years, both of them have covered up various different scandals.
Yeah. So I don't. That's why they're never going to get caught. I mean, basically, I really believe that the technocrats are really controlling the government, and I mean, I'm just a small person with a little voice, and they have billions and billions of dollars. So I guess that's what happens.
And in regards to Facebook stealing ideas, the actual first scandal of Mark Zuckerberg was from 2004 when he was 19, and he was accused of stealing the format for Facebook by the Winklevoss twins. Did you know that, or?
Yeah. Okay. I watched the movie. Yeah, I knew that he he did a Hot or Not website, and then the Winklevoss twins gave him the idea. He coded it, but it wasn't his, and then he stole it and sold it as his. And
yeah,
I knew that was for Facebook. I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. They recruited me over. They're going to promote me. They're going to compensate me for what I do, and they never did.
Right. And also in regards to that story, now I don't know if you know this part or not, but Mark Zuckerberg was caught hacking 2 journalists by using their passwords that they used for what was known as thefacebook.com and logging into their email accounts. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. But that doesn't surprise me. I probably was monitored in the bathroom. I mean, there were no private places at Facebook that you could go to get away from the constant monitoring and the cameras.
That is crazy. That just showcases what they want to do to our world.
Yeah, but why would they as a company do this? Is this all about, are they so scared for other companies taking information from them or something? They really don't trust their employees, or?
Yeah, they really don't trust their employees at all. Because if they did, then they wouldn't do this, right? Plus, there's a couple of leaks. And so I know when I was talking to a recruiter, because I'm not the only one that suffered discrimination there. He was a Hispanic recruiter. And he was told by a manager, oh, go throw out my garbage. And he's like, I'm not the janitor, I'm a recruiter. And he's like, it doesn't matter, you're dressed like a janitor, right?
Oh, wow.
Blatant, yeah. So we were talking, and what Facebook did was they re-leveled my position to a higher level, right? And they paid me peanuts. And so I was talking to him about it, and he was terrified. He's like, we have to go outside. Let's walk down this road away from the buildings, because there's cameras in all of the meeting rooms. There's cameras all over the floors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get the whole protecting intellectual property. They obviously that part I do get, right. I mean,
right.
They have a lot of big competitors. You have a Chinese social networks. You have competitors, and they're obviously interested in certain information. But if you can't even trust your employees, what are you actually doing? And then you create this whole cultist-like environment to keep your employees scared and together. And this is
quiet.
Yeah,
put a muzzle on us. They scare us with fear.
Right.
It's an incredible situation, actually. Okay, that's shocking.
Yeah, it's very shocking. Yeah, I can't believe some of the claims that we've talked about tonight, and some of the stories. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Now,
this has been an absolute bombshell. Go ahead, Elmo.
What is the corporate policy for development of products? So normally, if you come up with something and you're working for a company, all that goes into a product, that the company uses. You don't normally have patent capabilities or anything. At least when I was working, if you develop something with the company, that's the company's.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I don't know what their policy would, because you mentioned you in developing some things before, with them.
Right. And what I mean by that, I was never compensated. They stole it, meaning that they hired me, and I was hired at a level, and they promised me a promotion to the point where I was put as the manager for hiring. I was on the rack. And what I mean by they stole my work and never compensated me is that I never got promoted in that 3 years that I was there, ever. for anything that I did, for building a whole program that they still use today. That program won 2 awards in 2018 and 2019. And because I needed an accommodation, they took away all my promotional opportunities. I could have filed for a patent where I retained the rights for it, but I chose not to.
Interesting. Okay.
So they do allow that within the company, personal patents with developments.
Yes, they do.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not typical, but from what I'm used to, but.
Because I worked with a girl in L&D and she did a lot of the like the tools and the tech, and she asked me, she's like, well, did you file a patent, because you can still do that working here, that, you know, they can use it, but they're not going to 100% own it. And I said I didn't, and she's like, that wasn't smart. And I'm like, well, oh well, what am I going to do now? I mean, I'm
right after the fact. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
I just want to, for listeners here, just to showcase how bizarre Facebook is. In 2012, Facebook actually ran a psychological experiment. I can't believe this is real. They tested hiding a small percentage of emotional words from people's news feeds without their knowledge. However, what they did was they targeted people with negative emotional content to see how they would react. So, you know, you telling me the inner workings here, and then this scandal that came out in 2012, I'm shocked. I'm just like, is this a social media company, or is this like the CIA version of MK Ultra all over again? Because they're doing very similar experiments here, testing people's emotional levels. What?
I know, and I feel like they use us as experimentation at Facebook. You know, there's a case out there by the name of Duffy versus Facebook. So 2 African American gentlemen tried to sue Facebook back in 2013. And all the way down from the internal investigator to the tactics they use, they're the same. I felt like I was reading my own story. And so I do think they're doing something, because they use the similar tactics with the 2 gentlemen that they did on me. And they use the same internal investigator to investigate our claims. Both of us went to the EEOC and the Department of Fair Employment and Housing to make complaints against them. And so there's a lot of parallels. And so that really makes me wonder, like, are they testing how far they can push someone until they break them? Because you know there was a suicide there as well, right?
No, I didn't know that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, so I think it was a software engineer from China who was on the H-1B1 visa, and he was having alleged performance issues. And he was getting severely harassed and bullied like I was. And before his performance review meeting, he jumped to his death.
Oh my God.
This just happened back in 2019.
Wow, that's shocking. It's very interesting. Go ahead.
No, I definitely think there's a tie between that psychological project and what they're doing to their employees and what they're testing out on their employees. I just feel like they're doing something, and it's completely tied.
In response to that psychological project, Sandberg responded and said this was part of an ongoing research companies do to test different products, which doesn't make sense. I'll put that out there. And she said that was what it was. It was poorly communicated. And she says, and for the communication, we apologize. We never meant to upset you. That was her quote. That was her apology to users when they were bombarding users with negative things in their feed to test what effect that had on their statuses and likes. that doesn't say everything. I don't know what does. I mean, like that is bizarre behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say they also studied people's messages that were in drafts that they decided not to post for whatever reason. They decided they were going to study these messages that weren't being posted. So, I mean, all of this kind of showcases how much spying they do on their users. And, like you, Kristine, you witnessed it from within. So, I mean, like, if this doesn't tell people, delete your Facebook, I don't know what does. Like, crazy.
Yeah. So, Kristine, you mentioned that they might be like doing like testing on like employees. I was thinking about that. They might be using like the internal employees as a sort of like a prototype kind of thing to test new strategies on, and then before it goes into the public, the whole mind control thing. That is what they actually do. It sounds weird, but it is what they do. Like. I've seen an interview with an old CEO of Facebook. He left Facebook and he said like they're using these little sounds in Messenger. They're just casino sounds, right? They're taken directly from casinos to keep people hooked to the Messenger. You get this little sound and they will immediately check their messages, for example.
That was Facebook's first president, I believe, Sean Parker, who he also said that Facebook, I quote, was exploiting vulnerabilities in human psychology. So, again,
this was actually another
psychology.
Yeah, this was another CEO, but he said the same thing actually. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is great because I've been saying this for so long, and people literally look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you got to be kidding me. They do believe me, but it's just so far out with all of the, control. And I'm just glad that you have all of this proof, because you made me whole. And I know that I'm not crazy. I know this happened, but when you tell somebody else this, they're like, yeah, right, this is Facebook. And so it's been a real challenge to really open people's eyes to the reality of what this company is.
Yeah. And journalist Julian Assange of WikiLeaks said that Facebook is the most appalling spy machine that has ever been invented. As a quote, he said this years ago, and we're starting to see it, like, without a doubt. Like, we knew that they were selling user data, but all of these other things are just so out there and bizarre. It's like a social media company should not be involved in these things.
No.
It's absolutely crazy. And I can send you my article so you can kind of go through all of the scandals and everything so you have it for yourself.
I would love that.
Okay, I can do that for you. In regards to, there's another scandal here. It was, let me see if I can find it. 1 second. Go ahead, Mark. Say, ask questions if you
we have 1,000 questions, but we have others in chat too. Maybe you guys just jump in. I don't know.
Yeah, we could take some viewer questions for sure.
Is anybody monitoring them?
I can jump on Periscope.
Yeah, let me see.
We have a question about the disabilities again, about people working from home. Let me see. We have that other chat, EK, where the list of questions is in.
What's the other chat? YouTube?
No, you're in there too. Here on Hangout.
We can't see that chat if you're in it.
Oh.
We have a question list, actually.
No, Mark, you're in there.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm in.
So
Go ahead.
No, I have like a question. This is okay, it's unrelated to the spying, but it is like Zuckerberg announced that half of the employees will work from home for over the next 10 years. Well, it was supposed to be an advantage for employees with disabilities. Why are they being discriminated against when it comes to work from home? How does it negatively affect them?
Right. So this was an issue that I came up with, and so can you repeat, like, what was the question again? Like, how does it negatively impact people with disabilities to work from home or not work from home?
Yeah, the question has like a weird, it's like weirdly written.
Well,
half of the employees.
if you
go ahead. Yeah.
if you work from home, how could you be discriminated if you're working from home? I guess that's kind of what I got from it. It seems like that would be the ideal situation if you're disabled, stay at home, work from home, and then you don't have any like workplace problems.
Absolutely, but I think what the issue is here is that before this policy was implemented, there were numerous employees that I interacted with through my program, the accommodations program, that actually needed to work from home. And that wasn't supported. And the constant argument was collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And so many of these employees that are autistic and on the scale or have narcolepsy needed like their own room. The open office environment is not conducive for those type of conditions, or the alternative is work from home. And I was always pushed to find a way to accommodate them so they couldn't work from home, or it was minimal. So while it's great now, there are a ton of employees that fell under that ADA protection that needed it, that were not granted what they needed. So I think there's going to be some upset employees.
Interesting. Okay. I found the other scandal here. Facebook actually filed for patents for a technology that would allow them to predict your location by using your historical location data to determine where you would go next. Even if you were offline, and this would be published to your Facebook feed. I can't make this up. This is crazy.
What?
Yeah. They patented a technology to predict where you were going to go next based off of your historic location data to determine where you would go next, even if your phone was offline, and it would publish the location. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wouldn't publish. They would feed Facebook content based off of your location data. That's what it was. That's absolutely nuts.
Well, they use like over 2,000 different identifiers. I think it is 2,200. So they know like everything about you. It is. We know that Google uses predictive algorithms. They can predict what you will search for, and Facebook is very similar with that. Maybe even a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do have a question for you. You can go first, Preston. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I've as far as I have never seen them do any kind of predictive buying for me. It's only after I've bought something that I then see the ads, and it's actually quite stupid because it's like I just bought that. That's a waste of an ad because I just bought that product.
Yeah, you told me that you were like you bought like a hammer and then you would get ads for a hammer, right? Instead of nail.
Yeah, no, I did this the other day. I was looking for some obscure it's called Esiac out of Canada for a cancer patient, and then so they're gave them the knowledge and everything, email, Well, then I start getting ads, but they'd already bought it like a day or two before. There's a lag in there, and I mean, if you're really going to be doing it, like you say, proactively, well, you're far from that. But you're not even that. You're on my tail like a day or two later. It's weird. And so I don't know why they do it. It's like, okay, so you're throwing an ad up there, but it does you no good because I just bought the product from somebody else. That's a waste of an ad.
Yeah,
the way they're doing it now.
I know that I've read stories online where it's exactly the opposite, where people are looking at a product or saying or have a conversation about a product, and then the product ad pops up on a different website. Or, for instance, I saw there was an article in Vice where they were saying that they were talking about kitty litter, and then all of a sudden an ad came up for kitty litter on Facebook.
Right.
Samsung,
Sorry.
Samsung TVs, admitted to that, 10, 12 years ago. It's the TVs are looking at it. It's not just Facebook and the social media. This is coming at you from all angles. The Echo or all these products in your house, plus the TV. It's all listening to you.
Yeah. And in regards to the TV, where that sounds insane. Years ago, somebody took apart the cable box, and they found out that it had a RF signal in it that was listening, and it didn't make sense. But yeah, that's a thing. I don't know if they're still doing that, but it was a scandal years ago when somebody took apart a cable box and they found that, and it was just like, well, what is going on here?
Crazy.
Hey, so I have a question for you, and this is Facebook fact checkers have recently been flagging a lot of health-related content, false news, due to stricter COVID-19 related measures, which caused several big health-related pages and groups to be removed from Facebook. As for disabilities, how would you evaluate such effects and alternative medicine and methods being pushed down by Facebook?
Yeah. I don't think I would even use Facebook to be honest. To look for anything. I just don't feel that, especially the people that are on the Supreme Court who are fact checking or whatever. Like, you got to understand, many of these people don't have a medical background. They don't understand.
Right.
Yeah, any of this, right? Let alone, like, I couldn't even get them to understand accommodation. So I would gather my sources elsewhere from the internet and not use Facebook.
It's a problem, though, because for us in the alternative media, we've built up these Facebook pages to thousands and thousands of users. Some of the pages are millions of users.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So some of them are millions of users, and they're now throttling these pages, and they are killing our livelihoods. And it's not fair, because in most cases, the information that we're publishing is mainstream information, or it's just a opinion piece, or it's a study that's a scientific study. Like, for instance, I published a scientific study that was done on May 1st about 5G and the harmful effects of 5G. And since, now they're saying, oh, well, if you criticize 5G, you are connecting it to the COVID outbreak, right? Since they now set that narrative into place, anytime somebody talks about 5G, their video or article, whatever it is, it gets deboosted throughout Facebook or any other social media. So
this is not even just deboosting. They're deleting the entire pages.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Just quick.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I follow David Icke, and he was one that said that he's been banned and deleted from Facebook and YouTube. And like I said, they want to, what I believe is Facebook wants to be the champion. They've self-designated themselves as the COVID experts. And so they're going to determine what the public's going to know, consume about COVID, because they have their narrative that they need to fill. And that's why I believe they're deleting. I mean, this isn't about free speech. When they say that they believe in free speech, they're full of crap. They don't. They believe in their free speech, not true free speech. And so they just, I mean, look at all the damage that's been done to the 5G towers in England, right? Through all of that.
All over the world now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're really trying to minimize that because I believe like all these companies are in bed together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they want to control the narrative. And I'm not surprised they delete this because they don't believe in free speech. And nobody there really understands or has a medical background. I like I said, it was a real struggle to even make any moves in the disability space. Like I got nowhere basically.
Right. Yeah. In regards to David Icke, I've disagreed with him on a lot of different things, but I think that he has the right to speak and has the right to say his opinion on something. I mean, it's insane. Like, first off, we had the cutoff of Alex Jones and other people, right? And then, you know, I said to people, I said, you know, when you're cheering this on, it's going to be you next. Right. Because when you give them a little bit of a rope, you know, they're going to take the whole rope, and they're just going to keep on kicking people off the platform that they think shouldn't be on the platform, and that's taking away people's free speech and voices. So it doesn't surprise me. And the other thing about 5G is there is a whistleblower years ago came out, Barry Trower, and he is a British intelligence. He was involved in British intelligence and some agency over there in Britain. And he says that 5G is a weapon. And he says that 5G has always been known to be a weapon, and that this is before what David Icke was saying. And I'm not saying that what David Icke is that there is no COVID and that it's just 5G. I think that there really is a virus. And personally, my opinion is that it leaked from that Wuhan lab. And I've written extensively on that. But, you know, everybody is free to their own opinion to make up their own mind. And I think what they're doing is very Orwellian. They're restricting free information. Facebook is.
Oh, absolutely. And they don't want us to know the alternatives and I'm with you. Like I believe COVID is real, and I disagree with him on some issues as well. But you're right. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, well, and with Alex Jones, at least you could say, like, he was rude sometimes and he was insulting people. Right. But David Icke gives his own theories, but he is like a super gentle intellectual. He doesn't insult people directly. He doesn't attack people directly, except for giving his theories and his opinions about things. But he obviously doesn't break any terms and conditions. So that's the thing. Like these platforms set up their own terms and conditions, and he is like abiding by them. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Alex Jones is different, right? Alex Jones is like aggressive sometimes, and that's so at least there's something to say for that. But yeah,
and I've actually met David Icke in person years ago, and talked to him in person about his theories on specifically. I talked to him about his theory about reptilians and everything, and I said that like that's nuts and all that. But I've actually talked to the guy, and you know he is very down to earth, and he's not. A very aggressive person. So I can confirm that having met him in person in New York years ago.
Yeah, well, you know, he does it on purpose. He stays gentle because he knows if he doesn't, then he gets in this danger zone, right? So, yeah.
Now, I just have a question on what everybody thinks about this COVID thing. Do you feel it is a new strand of coronavirus, or do you think it's something that's always been around?
I personally feel that it's a leaked biological weapon because that's what several experts have said, including Francis Boyle, which are interviews with Francis Boyle, not ABB, but I'm going to try to get him on. But the interviews that I've done with Activist Post for Francis Boyle, they've been taken down by YouTube. Not me specifically doing the interviews. Spiro did the interviews, but the interviews that Spiro has done on with Francis Boyle have all been taken down and flagged by YouTube. And there's another couple experts who've discussed this being a bioweapon. There's a scientist in Czechoslovakia, and then there's the France discoverer of HIV. What's his name? Luc Montagnier, I think his name is. And they have all said that this is a biological weapon that was created in a lab. And the way this virus is kind of behaving, it seems like it's behaving like an unstabilized experiment, in essence. Like, it's causing so many symptoms, and that's my opinion on it. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in there and say anything about it, but
I was just wondering real quick, how did they tag those videos? As like fake news or something, or
they completely deleted them?
And did they give a reason for it? Is it like
they said that they were against company policy. They completely deleted the videos. They didn't give them a flag, as far as I know, but they just deleted the videos. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, Francis Boyle is a expert in bioweapons. He wrote the Anti-Bioweapons Act of 1989. Why are you censoring this individual from speaking?
Well, because it's not about the truth and free speech anymore. It's about an agenda and disinformation. It's obvious.
But is YouTube working for China?
That's what they're doing.
Like, what is going on here?
But there's one thing is very important, and that is in scientific debate, you actually need it. You need dissident opinions, because if you are proposing a theory, even if it's like a mainstream theory, you need people to backfire at it, because otherwise it doesn't become a conclusion. It stays on hypothesis. Like, you need to actually prove that it is as you say it is, or it doesn't become like a scientific fact. You can't reach consensus if you don't allow dissident opinions. So they have to allow this kind of stuff. And I think this is a very big mistake they're making.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because it's like, what is that effect called? It's the Streisand effect. So basically what's going on here is, you're censoring information that everybody's going to be seeking out. Like, it's crazy what they're doing. All these big companies, and the fact that they would censor individuals who are qualified to speak on this is absolute insanity. All because they're going on alternative platforms to get their voice out there.
Well, I asked you that question because I had an interesting mystery illness in 2000 and I think it was 2018, almost 2019, when I worked at Facebook. And this mystery illness was very similar to the coronavirus. And I know exactly who I got it from. And I know when I got it, and I know when I was sick. I have copies of my lung x-rays, and it looks very similar to other COVID patients. I basically got it was so bad that I got so sick that I had problems breathing, and I wound up in the emergency room. Because when I was sleeping at night, my lungs filled up with water and I couldn't breathe anymore. And I ran out and I had to go by ambulance to the hospital.
Interesting. I'm not medically qualified to speak on it, but that's interesting.
But I caught it from a colleague that I worked with right in L&D. So I know who gave it to me. And I'm not saying it's this, but it was very similar. And then when I asked this colleague, hey, what did you give me? She's like, I have no clue. It was the worst sickness I've ever had. And then I asked, well, where did you, who did you get it from? And she's like, I have no clue. Like, nobody around me is sick. Like, I don't know where I got it.
Interesting.
And I have that all in one of my videos with the copy of the lung x-rays.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, is it possible that it's a natural virus and it evolved and all of that? Yeah, I guess it is. But the thing is, like, all of the signs kind of point there to China, in my opinion, because of the research that Xi Jinping was doing on splicing bat coronavirus with SARS, basically taking bat coronavirus, replacing the S protein with SARS, and creating a cross-species, her words, not mine, virus. You know, I really see that this, what we're going through now, is her experiment, in my opinion, because viruses typically don't jump cross species. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler. Tyler? I guess it's not there. Okay, then. Tyler is a nurse, so he knows more about this topic. That's why I asked him. But yeah, there's a lot of, in my opinion, like coincidences here with this virus. Like they reported early on that it came from bats at a wet food market, but the thing is that wet food market doesn't even sell bats. It turns out, as the Lancet reported. So there's other things here, like Xi Jinping's assistant. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she went missing, and experts in the region have been trying to trace her down, and they can't. And she also disappeared from the Wuhan virology website. So I thought that was very suspect for them to do. And then on top of that, China sent in a military general to take over the lab in February. I believe it was February 7th, if I'm correct. So they did all these different things, in my opinion, that points to it being an accidental leak of a biological experiment. In regards to viruses kind of making you feel like you can't breathe and stuff like that, it could have been a bad case of the flu, because the flu does do that too. But this virus, in particular, the COVID virus, has been causing all sorts of problems. It attacks your T cells. It attacks your organs, like randomly attacks your organs. It causes rashes, hives, all sorts of other different symptoms. And now we're starting to see that it's causing a syndrome within kids known as Kawasaki disease. So, you know, this virus, in my opinion, is completely unstable, and it's just causing all sorts of problems. I mean, I'm not a virologist, so I don't know, but in my opinion, that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, AK, you know about the story about the Chinese had it was a joint military exercise with American soldiers from Fort Detrick that stayed at a hotel like in November or October, and then there was a break. Yeah, okay. See, that doesn't match up with our timelines. You know, when you hear something like that, and then something nefarious like that, it makes you kind of wonder.
Okay, so what I know about that is that in October is when the incident is supposed to have happened in Wuhan. There's actually now further evidence coming out. The Five Eyes, even though I don't trust them, they released information saying that no cell phone activity was going on around October within that lab. And there's also a report on the Wuhan Virology Lab website where it says that there was an accident that happened around that time frame, and they were asking for researchers to come to the lab to research the viruses that they had found. Now, there was a South Chinese scientist report of one of the scientists that knew Xi Jinping's assistant. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but he said that he knew the assistant And he said in his report that she was patient 0 and that a incident had occurred in the lab in October where bats had gotten blood and urine on the employees of the lab, and she was one of the employees that got the blood or urine on her. So that was around October. So, my theory on it is that they did a joint drill in Wuhan in October. My theory is that the virus escaped in October and has been propagating around the world since October. And we know that the virus has a incubation period time of 30 to 60 days, somewhere within that period. So, I mean, it's possible that that's what really happened. And the other thing that I think that sticks out to me is that there was a study done in France, I believe, where they said that the France case that they got in France was originally from Wuhan, which I'm very suspicious about that. So, and the other thing to mention here, Alamo, is that also last year in July 2019, there was a incident where Fort Detrick was shut down for a biological. There was something biological that happened there, and they shut down the lab. Right. Then there was a case of mysterious illness that happened to 2 patients in July as well in Virginia. And I have all of this research and everything. So is it possible that the virus actually came from Fort Detrick and not Wuhan? Yeah, it is possible. But I think that the fact is that Shizeng Li was doing all these experiments on bats, and directly in her research papers, she literally says, I'm trying to create a cross-species virus that has no cure. What? No, I don't know who would see that and be like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's possible, in my opinion, that it came from Fort Detrick as well. We know that Fort Detrick is a BSL-4 lab as well. They work with bioweapons, the same as Wuhan's virology lab works with bioweapons, the BSL-4 lab. So, it's possible that it came from Fort Detrick as well. I hope that answers your question.
Let's go back to the whole Facebook thing, maybe.
Yeah. Before we get shut down, I agree.
Yeah. You got an opportunity.
Did you know anybody there that did worked in the contracts department, or that would know more about the actual interrelationships Facebook has with other entities in the government, finance people?
Yeah, but the control that they have, the fear that they've instilled in everyone, no one will come forward. I've tried. I tried with a couple of attorneys, like, hey, it'll be anonymous. Will you guys speak to this attorney? And I can't get anyone.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I mean, the way that they've witnessed you being treated, I don't blame them, though. I mean, they don't want to be tracked around and all of that. So, I mean, I don't blame them, to be honest. And it's absolute insanity that a company is allowed to do that for a former employee.
And I'll be honest, I'm blacklisted. I cannot find another HR job. Again, I built the program for Amazon and Facebook. I have a master's degree. I built a lot of programs for both companies beyond just the accommodations program. And the only job that I can find, and I've been gone for a year, is a Walmart contract position for accessibility. And so it's just hard to understand how that happens. And it has everything to do with what I've done, and going against Facebook and filing a workers' compensation claim against them for work-related stress.
Right. And also when you do file workers' compensation claims, the companies that you try to apply for, they see that and then they go, oh, well, this is a whistleblower. Oh, this is somebody that's a threat. They're not going to hire you based off of that. And they do discriminate on that. Based off of my own experience with that, blowing the whistle at a supermarket position on a manager that was throwing around racist slurs at employees. And I reported her for it, and I started a protest of the workers there, and the store manager actually tricked us into signing our resignation papers because he said that he would transfer us to another store, and that all we had to do was sign these papers, and nobody read them, and then afterward he was like, all right, get out. So he tricked us and did that. And the union that I was involved with, they said that I could have gotten him in a lot of trouble for that only if we didn't sign the papers. So after you sign those papers, that's it. And it's crazy how companies get around these laws that are supposed to be there to protect workers. So.
Absolutely. My career is over. And so now I have to figure out what my next step will be. And all because of something that was out of my control and they did to me, which I think that makes it even more rough. And I went to school late in the game. So I have about $100,000 worth of student debt. So I'm not in a good position. They definitely put me in a compromising position.
Yeah, but at least in the end, you did the right thing by standing up and speaking your mind and exposing what's going on there. Because, like you said, these are evil people.
Oh, absolutely.
Any other stories from Amazon's perspective? Because we've mostly talked about Facebook this whole entire time. We haven't really gotten too far into Amazon.
Yeah, I just think, Amazon is a toxic place. I mean, we've seen it in the news. I think an executive resigned. I can't remember his name. But it was fun because I follow him on Twitter, and he didn't realize that he was going to get blacklisted from other companies for doing what he did. And so he tweeted about it, and it's just the way it goes. Like, you try to do the right thing. And, he was talking about how he was experiencing difficulties finding other jobs and moving on from Amazon. And so I think these big companies all do the same tactic, and that is, as soon as you, like Google, like, look at all those people that stood up and tried to, unionize, and look what happened. It's just these conglomerates have so much control legally.
Yeah.
And so with Amazon, it's just, I mean, and what's great, like, Amazon's a horrible working environment too. But what's good about Amazon is they admit to it, right? And so you know what you're going into. I think Jeff Bezos said, like, if you want to come work here, you're going to be working, nonstop, 24/7, and he demands a lot. You just don't really fully appreciate how much he demands until you're actually in that position, because I think the perception is he wants every person to work as hard as he does for his own company.
Right.
They do a lot of union busting also. When I was there, they used to launch jump teams if there was anybody speaking of unionizing in any of the FCs. And
wow.
so these jump teams were comprised of all attorneys. And so we had them come down a couple of times, like somebody in HR, it wasn't me, but it was a different HR person, that, hey, people are talking about unionizing, and we've had this whole team there to put a stop to it.
Wow. And what do you think, as a former HR person, what do you think about the way Amazon was treating their employees, not giving them PPE equipment, even though that they were kind of shipping PPE equipment? What is your opinion on that?
He's cheap. He likes, Amazon likes to call it frugality, and point blank is Jeff Bezos is cheap. And I didn't even have the equipment that I needed to do my job as HR. So I'm not surprised that these, associates that are working on the ground, getting our stuff out, aren't provided with what they need to do their job. He doesn't believe in investing in things. So I used to have to create my own tools or patchwork things together to get things I needed done. So the fact that he didn't spend the money to buy the PPE, or he said, hey, donate your PTO, is not a surprise. He's very frugal.
Well, right now they supposedly started to give out PPE equipment after all the protests and everything that were going on, and
right.
After the VP quit. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Like you said, I can't remember his name at all. But he quit Amazon, and he did it for the workers. So I mean, he gets to wear a medal for that. I mean, that needed to be done. I mean, it needs to be said. All of the treatment that Amazon is, how they're treating their workers and everything, it's horrible. I mean,
and these workers aren't paid a lot at all. I mean, they're paid maybe
right.
12, depending where you live. Like in Texas, it was really low. I think they were making barely $9-10 an hour, and they're on their feet for 8 hours. You cannot sit down. There are no chairs on the floor. And so these people are standing on cement floor for 8+ hours. And guess what? If overtime's called, you have to attend, or you have to use your own personal time to take off. So, I mean, this is just white collar exploitation. I think this is slavery. Yeah,
I was just going to say that, actually. I was just going to say it's similar to modern day slavery. I mean, it's wage slavery, basically. But I briefly worked in a warehouse for Amazon, sorting and loading trucks. And I'll tell you, it was absolute hell. They expect you to be able to load a truck by yourself, load at least 1 to 2 trucks by yourself in a whole shift. And if you can't do that, then, you're gone. And that's a lot harder than people think, because it's like you have to sort all the boxes out into locations, right? So, for instance, these packages are going to New York, these packages are going to Connecticut, these packages are going to California, right? So you have to sort out all those packages, and then after sorting out all those packages, you have to load a truck that the trucks are labeled where they're going, and you have to load based off of the pallets where it says where the truck is going. So, this pallet says California, this pallet says Connecticut, this pallet says New York, and the truck is going to New York, California, Connecticut. I mean, that's not feasible, but you get what I'm saying. So they require you to load a truck by yourself without any help from another person, and everybody's loading trucks. And it's kind of like one team is unloading a truck, and then another team is loading a truck. It's a crazy, hectic environment. I'll tell you that.
And the conditions are horrible, because when I first started working there for 2 weeks, I don't know if they make HR do this anymore, but we had to do all of the associate jobs. So I was in the back of that truck, and I'm super short. So it was really difficult because like I'm 5'2", and like I had to climb up ladders to try and carry these packages and play Tetris and get them in the truck. But what I was going to say is, like, in places like Arizona, there's absolutely no air conditioning in those trucks. Like, I almost passed out from heat exhaustion because it was like 110 in the truck and all I had was a fan in there.
Yeah, that's exactly how it was for me too. It was hot in the summer. They had a fan on the outside of the truck, one little fan on the outside of the truck. You're allowed to have water bottle. That's fine, but you can't have the water bottle in the truck because you could spill it on packages. And the other thing is the truck was hot, like very, very hot. And by the end of my shift, I was completely like sweating like I've never sweated before, like soaked in sweat because it was so hot. And they require you to run around. And this was just a sorting facility. This wasn't an actual Amazon facility. This was just a facility that was sorting Amazon product. So it wasn't Amazon per se, but it was a sorting business.
Right.
So I got a question about Amazon, and I'm not sure if you guys mentioned it. I was a little distracted, but WikiLeaks leaked like a map of data centers around the world, secret data centers of Amazon, and they were like very deep into China too. They have like 4 data centers in China, and now it was said also that they might be doing a lot of data collecting for the Chinese government for. Their whole surveillance system and these things, because Amazon has like the highest quality clouds in that sense, or preferred by governments. I'm not sure. Do you know anything about that? Like, okay, can you? Are you even able to disclose it? Like,
yeah. I wasn't in that tech piece with the AWS and that government. That is really siphoned off and segregated. So I don't have any context for that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just interested because like they keep their whole data center list kind of like secret too, and that's what I already think is weird.
Right. And so like when I would pull up, because you can pull up a location finder through like their internal Amazon wiki, like I could never pull up the data centers or find them. Like they weren't easily listed.
No, and I've been like in the past, I've been a customer at AWS, and you could actually choose like different locations, but not all these locations. I've seen this map, and there were like all these they were not available for choosing. I can tell you that. So they must be restricted to governments, to intelligence maybe, and not to the public, at least to public companies.
Right, and not to the general population of HR. I think they probably had like a special subset of HR people that kind of service that line of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's again like Facebook, very, very compartmentalized to various different businesses within one parent business. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, and that's how they kind of operate. Like each FC is considered like its individual business, and they're not connected. So the company feels very disjointed, even though it's very large and expansive and holds AWS, the FCs, and like logistics and all of that. It really, you feel so disconnected from everyone and those parts of the business.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
And they do it intentionally. Like Facebook intentionally kind of silos everyone, and you have like 3 teams working on the same product, and it's crazy. I don't know why they do it, but they do it.
Hey, so and Amazon, this working culture is very different than Facebook. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, it is, because I knew what I was getting with Amazon, right? Like after I got there and I was in the role and I'm like, wow, this is horrible. Like I'm working as if this is my own company and it's not. Facebook, I thought I'd have a better work-life balance, a little more flexibility, and I absolutely didn't have it. In fact, it was worse than Amazon. At least I could take time off there at Amazon, and I couldn't take time off at Facebook. I think the cultures are abusive in different ways, and I think specifically for Facebook that they're very abusive to their employee populations, more so than Amazon. Like I feel like Amazon respects its tech arm, but not the associates, where Facebook doesn't respect anybody.
And is this the same everywhere? Because I know like Facebook is big in Ireland, for example, too. They have like their own data center in Ireland, and Amazon is all over the world too. Do you think they do the same thing in other countries?
Yeah, but the problem with that is they treat it very, like it's very siloed as well, and they have their own HR teams and whatnot. So yeah, I absolutely think it's pervasive through the company because it's the company culture, right? You can't just segregate it to, like headquarters. It's the mentality of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was asking it because like Europe has different privacy laws, for example. So if you're talking about like spying on employees, having this cult-like behavior, I'm not sure if it would like even be allowed in Europe, in Ireland. I mean, I think that if this leaks out, and then the Irish law isn't very friendly towards that. Like,
right, and they were, so when that law passed, Facebook was really having a hard time complying and deleting the data that it needed to delete. And
yeah,
I know people that worked in that department, the GDPR department, where they were trying to track down everything to delete, and I really don't know how successful they were.
Okay. Yeah, it must have been a shock for Facebook.
Oh, and it was a nightmare because the data isn't organized and kept in one location. It's kept in several different locations. And one person I knew was like, I'm going to quit. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, sometimes a request can take 2 days, the GDPR request, and sometimes it takes me like almost 2 weeks. And I can't do it anymore. It's just too much.
Yeah, because I think the Irish location is responsible for like almost everything outside of the US. That includes a lot of other countries outside of Europe.
Yeah.
And the problem is that there's a lot of interaction between, LATAM and, EMEA and all the different groups, right? So Facebook used to require people to come and do these mass seminars with us. And so that's where it became really sticky, is when they came to do business or they came over to the US side and we had their information. To track that down is where it really they didn't have a good process.
Poor efficiency. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like hearing all the inner workings of Facebook. I mean,
I was surprised because I felt like it was held together by duct tape, staples, and paper clips. Like literally.
That's sad, actually, because you're talking about a company that has more value than like many of the countries in the world. Like it would probably rank like top 30 of the richest countries in the world. So.
Yeah, from an HR perspective, Amazon I thought was bad, but Facebook was a complete mess.
That's funny because we actually hear that from other people who've worked there before a lot throughout of these leaks that come out of Facebook and in the media.
I've been hearing a lot, and I don't know if this is true. I've been hearing this over the years. Is it true that Facebook, when they don't have a group or an internal group to do such a thing. They always hire these third party companies to do the work for them. That's where I hear it's true, right? They hire these third party for content moderation and stuff like that.
Yes.
So what I've been hearing is that the most horrible stories about Facebook come from these places, including I heard one point where a rape had occurred at one of these third party places during a lunchtime thing.
Wow. I didn't hear about the rape, but I've heard about the conditions that they work in, and they're substandard, like toilets overflowing. And
Oh
the
God.
problem, yeah, and they use these content moderators because they know the psychological damage that's going to happen when they view all of this content, right? Like, we met about it. I talked about it with my program because they were debating whether to have internal or contracted out. And it was too much of a risk and liability to have it internally because of the PTSD that would result in it. And so I really think that's why they sourced it out. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, because they don't have the liability or that workers' comp trail of, hey, you created PTSD. And so they don't even offer counseling, like adequate counseling for people that suffer this. So
Hey,
a bad job.
so do you think this is all how Mark Zuckerberg wants it, or is this a team behind this? Are these other people deciding this whole culture, or is this actually the big plan of Mark Zuckerberg to do it like this?
Well, I can't speak for him, but I'm a firm believer that everything's pushed from the top down. And to have a CEO not know this is going on culturally in your workplace, then you're pretty disconnected from your company. And so with that said, I believe this is pushed from the top down.
Okay.
The other question that I have in regards to content moderation, we've seen over the years a lot of child abuse imagery get shared on Facebook and in private Facebook groups and through Facebook Messenger. And I've always had a question why they haven't implemented some type of like they have algorithms for censoring people, right? But they don't have algorithms to block child pornography. And they could use Ashton Kutcher's Thorn technology to kind of block the people from facilitating child pornography on their network. And I've always wondered why Facebook hasn't done that when they also do they scan our messages, right? They censor certain words with algorithms. Like if you say Alex Jones on Facebook now, unless it's in a negative context, you can't post your message. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's a new feature. Yeah, that's a new feature of Facebook.
He's iconic. Geez, how do you get that banned?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I personally have problems with Alex. I've gone on his show years ago, called in and like criticized him on him not speaking about Zionism and stuff like that. But in regards to this, what do you think from an HR perspective when it comes to them having people have to go through these child abuse imagery and violent imagery? Why not use an algorithm to stop that content when they're already censoring users?
Right. And like and it's a theme that I feel like we keep going back to, but like, what if this is a behavioral experiment on humans to see how we react? Because you're right, there's technology that can take care of it, right? So why put yourself at risk as a company to then carry more workers' comp cases for PTSD or work-related stress? So and they're bringing the technology in with the way that they've done some of how they treat people. Like, it just seems like, what if this is all kind of like some kind of weird behavioral large experiment to get data on us? Because I just don't see why they wouldn't use technology and reduce their liability and risk from a workers' comp perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you, because it's like, there is software out there to block some of this imagery. Obviously you have to put metadata into the database, and then it kind of knows this person's trying to share this image, and then it blocks it. But still, I mean, it would limit the amount of workers that you need to use to go through flagged content like that. And the people wouldn't have to sit there and go through so much disturbing content like child abuse imagery. So, I mean, yeah, it's just absolute insanity that they wouldn't have implemented this.
Right. And from a cost perspective, right, we're not just talking about that, but like financially, like the litigation costs for defending these cases. I think there was a story that came out, and they settled the content moderators, their PTSD, for like 52 million. I mean, yeah. So it's a financial drain, so it doesn't make sense.
I think this is more like an ideological question. It is about what is Facebook's focus actually on? Because, like, I think what AK means is, why do they use these automated systems to tag fake news, etc., but they don't use automated systems to target actual abuse, actual criminal behavior? And that is strange. So then the question is, like, how does Facebook see itself? Like, how does it look at itself? Like, is it literally focused on producing a specific message to people? Are they like consider themselves like a media company that broadcasts a message to people? Like, I'm just wondering about this.
So for me, I think they view themselves as a media company to broadcast a message. And again, with the people that own Facebook, what was that company that you just told me, the CIA company?
That's Inquitel.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all very strange, and it all ties together with all this behavioral stuff, right? That they're testing us unknowingly. And this just seems like a huge science experiment. And I really just think that they see themselves as the good guy when they're really causing more harm than good. And that's the narrative that he likes to tell himself. I remember in all hands meetings where he really had hope that Facebook would turn it around. And so I think he sees this company as the beacon of truth, an extension of him, what he'd like to be, right? Like president, like controlling the media, disseminating information. Like, I think he sees himself as more than a social media CEO. I think he sees Facebook as more than just a social media company.
Okay. Oh.
Hey, that's weird.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. Mark had it deleted because you didn't answer. I'm adding you back right now. Just give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, he's in a double conversation, Tyler.
It was like going around and around. Okay.
Uh-oh, what happened?
What did I get? I think AK dropped off.
Yeah, he had a huge feedback, so it actually made it worse, I think, because now Tyler's in like a double conversation. So. 1 second.
Let me try that. All right, can you see it now?
Yeah, he's back.
Hello? Hello?
He's
I
back,
don't see
Tyler.
him.
Aaron. Yeah, can you see it?
He's not on. He's not on this one.
Mm-mm.
Hold on. Can you see it now? Hold on.
I see the chat.
Oh, I hear him.
You're in another conversation, Tyler. You have to click his conversation away.
Do you have any idea of like how many cases Facebook has against him in total?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. The internet is really scrubbed by Google. And I don't know if there's alternatives, but I only know of 2 actual lawsuits besides mine. And one was the Duffy versus Facebook that I said. And then, God, I got to look at this. It was another one for disability and age discrimination against an attorney. But when I look up cases, it's really difficult to find information or stories about Facebook because it's clear that like YouTube scrubbing the internet, or I don't know what's going on, but it's very difficult to find information.
Yeah, you don't hear too much about it, but I guess you'd have to go like into the Pacer system. It just seems like there'd be quite as many customers as they have, 2 billion, that they'd have all kinds of cases, not just business related,
right?
Personal accounts. I mean, you guys are coming at it from internal. I
right.
mean, it just seems like they'd really be getting hit by now, and yet you don't see any big class actions or much anything from the government because they don't seem to really protect or enforce any kind of monopoly laws like they used to.
Not at all, and that that is strange. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like the government's more willing to go after Google than they are Facebook or Apple or other companies. You're right. The last class action lawsuit that I saw was from the HUD one. Was that the HUD of Chicago that sued Facebook?
Oh, boy, you got me there. I don't.
Yeah, I think it was the HUD of Chicago, that federal agency that actually sued Facebook for advertising discrimination against the Black community. That's the only class action. And then the FCC one, and that's it. But when I was looking for this, I was basically told that no one is really interested in suing Facebook because of all the money that they have.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, any time you go up against a large company, you usually lose. That's the rule of court: is whoever has the most money usually wins. Seems like.
Yeah, and all of the attorneys in the Bay Area know that, and they're reluctant to do anything with Facebook.
Hey, so there were multiple investors asking for Zuckerberg to be removed from Facebook. So how do you think about that? Was he doing a bad job? Or?
Oh, absolutely. But the problem is that he can't be removed, irrespective, and he's not going to resign. He set it up so nobody can remove him. But the guy from Instagram left because he tried to control him. He took his idea and then he tried to implement a lot of things from Instagram to Facebook. So this isn't somebody you know, and I'm not saying education's everything, but I mean, this guy never finished college. Like, you want him to run a multi-billion-dollar company, and you basically have somebody that isn't qualified to do it.
Okay.
He seems tied into all the financing and all. I mean, he was able to leverage himself from hacking people's products to, getting the money to actually go big time. I mean, he's got big connections somewhere, family connections. That just doesn't happen by accident.
Oh, absolutely. But from a business perspective, Facebook is not running efficiently. And while it makes a lot of money, they also spend a lot of money. Like I said, like that $5 million budget was thrown to the wind, not knowing ROI on it, and if it was even benefiting anyone. It was just like, here's the check. And so it's just not run as a business should be run. And I think a lot of people, the investors, see that, and I see it. I saw it from an HR perspective, how lousy we were running.
Yeah, and so there was also this whole scandal regarding WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp was like a separate software for the phones to communicate. It was taken over by Facebook, and then Facebook started to remove all kinds of privacy things. The encryption was weakened, and so you had the former owner of WhatsApp speaking out about that, and he literally he refused an offer for billions and billions of dollars, and he left the whole thing behind. And he was actually one of the big front runners of the whole delete Facebook campaign. I don't know. Do you know anything about that situation?
No, I was more. I think I have more context with the Instagram situation because I was around when that was actually heating up, and when the problems started bubbling up. Also, what was that? God, that one executive's name. His name's Chris Cox. That was another departure that I was there for. And well, nobody wants to speak ill of Mark, or they're scared. And some people are brave enough to do it. I mean, this has to signal to the investors that something major is going on. If a lot of these founders and people who originally started with Facebook, and people from like Instagram, WhatsApp are departing, a mass exodus. And I think that really speaks to leadership.
Yeah.
And so I can't give you about WhatsApp, but collectively, just kind of the mass exodus of many of the high executives in Instagram and WhatsApp leaving, Chris Cox, like I think that should signal that something's just not going right there. Are we still going?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still going. Yeah,
Okay.
We still have like a list of questions. I was just in the meantime, I was reading a bit about the Instagram situation, and yeah, we have AK. He dropped out, and he seems to have problems to come back in. So this is a hangout thing, I think. Okay, so I got like a list of questions in front of me again. We talked about the investors having problems with Zuckerberg. Oh yeah, well, do you think Facebook will actually still be around in 10 years from now? If you look at all the scandals, like all the privacy scandals, they're being sued like all over the planet. It's like I know personally they're even being sued in Switzerland and in Austria by privacy groups for billions and billions. Do you think that they will be around in 10 years in the same way as they are now?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be in the same way because you got to take into account competitors that may arise in the next decade or so. But do I think they'll still be around in some form or capacity? Absolutely. He has way too much money. And again, with the business practices that Mark Zuckerberg exhibits, I definitely see him eating up smaller competitors. But I'm hoping that at some point there's somebody that comes out that gives us an alternative for social media so we don't have to use that platform. But I don't see them going away. I know what they're doing in Europe, but that's a totally different sentiment in the US. And quite frankly, I don't think both presidential candidates will ever hold the fire under Facebook's feet.
Well, there is a question. These social media, when they first started, they promoted themselves as being public squares for everyone, without like biased opinions. But now, like we discussed, they become like more and more media companies that promote and bring out their own messages and are very biased in what is put on their platform. They're actively deleting certain opinions and certain pages. And then the question is, are they still public squares, or are they actual companies that have to abide to different rule sets? Because we are in the US, we have the new Sosta Festa law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I think it was Donald Trump that signed it in 2018, and it says that all website owners will be held responsible for the content that users post. And so they will get like a notice and takedown, and if they don't abide to it, they will be held responsible. If Facebook is no longer a public square, they will fall under the same category, and they will have to also abide to these specific things. And the same thing is in Europe. We now have the Article 13 thing. That is pretty much the same thing for copyright issues. If you're no longer a public marketplace, but you are a biased, you are like moving in a certain direction, you will be held accountable according to these laws. Officially, it should be.
Right.
So that's my observation of it. That it depends on, will they promote themselves as a public marketplace, or will they promote themselves as a specific advertising a specific opinion? It's just like, yeah.
Right. And that's going to be a difficult one with all these laws coming up, how it's going to look in the future. And I think that's really going to be dependent on which way they list themselves will benefit them the most is the one that they'll choose, right? Because if you look at it now, they're listed as like, what are they listed? What is their DBA listed as? Is it social media or what is it? Because I think the reason why we're having difficulties in the US holding them accountable for the things that they do is because the way that they list themselves, that they would list themselves as a media company, which is what they morphed into, then we'd have a little more to go on and hold them accountable for their content. And so they're intentionally listing themselves as something different in the US to evade that type of responsibility, because it would require different laws if they change their listing. So I believe they're going to pull the same tactic here, and they'll use it either in Europe or 10 years from now to benefit them.
Yeah, because you are in the US, you are subject to the Communications Decency Act, CDA, and then especially Section 230 that says like no one can be held responsible for what another user does on the internet. So if you're like a provider, you're an internet provider, you can't make these decisions. You're giving like a public space, a public service, and you're not making the decisions. Others are going to have to make it for you. But if you're no longer that neutral position, then you don't have that same protection.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to leave that neutral position.
Yeah, no, that's what they are trying to keep, right? But they're breaking that down themselves by saying like, wow, we removed this, that news. David Icke, we don't want him there. Like, you're no longer being neutral. You're deciding, yeah.
Exactly. And again, I think I looked it up what they did business as, and it was like an internet service provider. And they're definitely, when you're listed as that, as in the United States, there's different regulations that you're held to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But how can Facebook list themselves as an internet service provider? They're not providing the internet to anybody. They're providing social media.
Yeah, but see, that's what they're hiding behind. That's what they're hiding behind. That's their neutrality position that they're hiding. They're saying like we're delivering a service to everyone, and this is the same as the telephone companies. They can't decide which phone call to block to someone. They're not allowed. They're not allowed to like listen to your phone call and say like, okay, you're talking about dissident stuff, so we're going to block this phone call. This is the same policy.
Well, they've claimed both in court in different instances. They've claimed they're a publisher and they've claimed they're a public square. They seem to be able to get away with whatever they want to get away with. That's how you can't corner them, is because the courts will not allow you to corner them when they've, obviously perjured themselves already.
Yeah, but this is an unfair position. They can't do this. They have to make a choice. Like, either we're going to be biased or we're going to be a public square. But if we're a public square, we can't censor dissident opinions. It's very easy. Like, I get the whole copyright part, but you can censor copyrighted content if you're not allowed to have it on your platform. Fine, but you can't say like we like this news and we don't like this news. It's not neutral.
Right. Yeah, it has to do with them censoring news-related content. Like they can legally, they have to censor grotesque content like violence and stuff like that, and child pornography and animal abuse. But besides that, when you're censoring news and opinion, that's where you get into the gray line.
Yeah. Of course, criminal acts is something else, but like. Yeah, news is something. It's not a criminal act. It is like something else.
Unless Facebook's siding with the U.S. government, like they are, how the U.S. government's going after Assange and saying that journalism is a criminal act. Then maybe that's their narrative. But I mean,
maybe that is how they got away with it.
It seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it together, and then it has to do with like a national security thing, I guess. But if you're not going to hold Facebook accountable, then you can't do it to Google and other places either, right?
I know when the whole dark overlord leaks were going on, that a lot of these social media companies were contacted by agencies telling them to take down the content, or they were going to go after the businesses. I only know that because of I know somebody at Steemit, and when that whole thing was going on, they were told to remove that content or face legal action or law enforcement action. So I mean,
this was obviously criminal content. It was stolen. These were stolen emails from lawyers, law firms.
Well, yeah, it was stolen emails from the 9/11 law firm where they were publishing documents and saying that you give us this much Bitcoin and we'll release more. So, yeah, I agree with you. It was criminal content, right? But I'm just saying that, we know that that's how the government reacts to those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah, but then there's now with Facebook, there's another problem that it is now these fact-checker companies, which are not government companies at all. They're just like competing commercial news companies.
Exactly.
That's just like weird.
That's what I tried to say. I was like, you're literally just looking for a story just to smear somebody for clicks. And I was like, you're just jealous because I got 1 million views on one article and your article only got like 10,000 or something like that. But
I can give you an example. Here in my country, the fact checker, we have one fact checker company, that's nu.nl. They're owned by Sanoma, which is a huge Scandinavian media company. And then when there's alternative media or and even mainstream media with a different opinion, the new NU.nl gets the power to actually say this is fake news, but they're a competitor company.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what Don Lewis told me. He said, sue the hell out of them and sue them for anti-competitive. What is it? Antitrust. Do an antitrust lawsuit. Yep. And I'm thinking about it, and I don't know exactly how I would go about doing that with going against these big fact checkers, but thinking about it, because they literally fucking said that I wrote that a meteor was going to hit the Earth, and I never said that. They smeared the fuck out of me. But I wanted to ask, and this kind of just popped in my head, Kristine, is that when you were working at Facebook, do you know how many approximate information requests that you got for like governments to users?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't have any visibility to that piece of the business.
Oh, you didn't? I thought. Okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, the GDPR request I had access to. Is that what you're speaking of?
Say that again.
So the GDPR requests, like the government, all of that I had access to, but not for the users. I didn't have that information.
Interesting. So they split that up, even though it's an HR related inquiry.
Right.
HR.
They really, so like instead, like every function was a department, right? Like, so they really split up the HR function to be like little siloed departments. And so it was strange. And I think it was a tactic so that no one would 100% have full insight into the business workings of Facebook.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I was just curious on that because I know we have heard over the years that the government has been requesting a lot of user data from Facebook for various different reasons.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You have feedback again, okay? Like the YouTube. You have to mute yourself if you're not speaking, I think.
There's an echo going on at Preston's, I think.
All right, let me stop.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Somebody has an echo going on. I think it's Preston. I'm not 100%.
Test. Maybe it was.
I don't hear an echo now. Well, anyway, if you don't speak, just mute yourself. It's better.
Right. Yeah, I have been actually muting myself. So, yeah. But what I was talking about is that over the years, Facebook has had various different government requests from Europe to the U.S. to all over the place. So I was just kind of curious in regards to how many approximately, but she said that she didn't work in that department, so we can't really answer that question.
No, like I said, I knew about the GDPR requests because I had friends that worked in that department, but I never received how many. I was just more along the lines of, this is horrible. And I had to give them some of my information that I had from the accommodation perspective, but I was never told why or, what it was for. So it was kind of like if they needed an accommodation for, like, let's say they're doing a conference and I'd have like medical records, I would have to give that over. But they basically kept a lot of, they keep everybody out of the loop. So nobody has a full record of what's really going on in Facebook.
Okay.
Again, that goes back to the compartmentalization, and that very much makes me think of intelligence agencies because they operate the same way. And that goes back, for me at least, I think about all of these experiments that Facebook is doing, and then I look back again at the funding where that InQtel, and I'm like, well, maybe Facebook signed over all their employees and users to InQtel for funding because all these various psychological experiments.
Absolutely. And that's what I was like, that common theme keeps coming up for me. And, as we were discussing some of the reasons behind why they don't just use like you said, to a tool to identify pornography rather than using a person, like there's certain things that just, they're not adding up and they seem very suspect. And for me, I'm starting to believe that this could be one big social behavioral science experiment to really hone in and understand human thinking, to track us, to sell us things, and so as we've been talking more, I'm leaning more and more and more towards this narrative.
Yeah, that's the way I feel too, because it's like all these various psychological experiments over the years, not once or twice, several times that they've done psychological experiments. And then now they want to go towards mind reading. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Is this a social company or is this like the CIA's experiment going on here?
I can give you something to think about, and that is the biggest investors in Facebook are Vanguard and BlackRock, right? Now, the biggest investors in Moderna that makes vaccines against the COVID-19 are Vanguard and BlackRock, right? And then you have Fidelity Investments is a huge investor in Facebook as well. And so the Vanguard Group and BlackRock and these combined investment in both like the medical scenes, so huge, combining it with their investments in Facebook, that they are all together interested in gathering certain information, right? Because we know that Facebook in the past has been caught trying to convince hospitals to hand over medical records of people. They've been caught with that. And we have Fidelity that literally trades in humans.
And can I tell you guys something? So this is interesting because Fidelity is the one that that's their vendor that deals with all of our employees and past employees 401ks. And so I just feel like, wow, that's a huge conflict of interest for me.
Yeah, because Fidelity is obviously interested in all these informations about people. And they're getting it from Facebook, of course. It's like the best way to gather it. And I personally was thinking about the BlackRock and Vanguard. I mean, I see them involved with both like the whole medical scene and this again. And I just remembered that Facebook was trying to approach like different hospitals and asking for medical records. And they wanted to include this in the whole Facebook system. And it was quite shocking to me. Like, they're not allowed to do this.
Well, no, they're trying. They have a system and patent and everything. Facebook and Google are both trying to get involved in the medical industry and have people's medical records on file just by using their Facebook profile, but the medical records won't be visible unless you're a doctor or whatever and you have the password and all that software. But still, I mean, that's just crazy. Like,
it's a social media company, right?
Yeah. It's like, wait, what is going on here? Like, this is insane. They're trying to branch out now. It's no longer just social media. They're now trying to branch the company out into various different industries. And the industries that they're choosing are very suspect. It's because they're choosing the medical industry, and then they're choosing the fact that they want to read our minds. Like, what is going on here with Facebook?
Well, you know that employers also check nowadays. If you want a job, the employers will also check your Facebook for your behavior, and this becomes very common now. So if you combine this with medical records, this is obviously interesting for employers too.
Well, and I wouldn't trust that. Like I'll be honest with you, because the program that I built is directly tied to like disability laws. And so with that said, with this program, you have to have a specialized tool that's locked down, that no one can access this medical records, or if you don't have a tool, you have to lock them in a separate drawer with a lock and key. And Facebook didn't even know that when I got there, and they were obtaining, exchanging medical records via email. And I was like, wow, like this isn't even secure. This is somebody's medical record that they're getting emailed, and they're just managing this through Outlook, which is not secure enough to house these things. And it's not even.
Oh, that's, yeah. Fine. That's completely insecure. That's hilarious. I mean, that's like anybody who does a man-in-the-middle attack could literally get in to read that, because it's not encrypted. Outlook is not encrypted.
Right. And so to go into this business and say, hey, I want to step and I want to pivot into this industry is quite scary, because they didn't even have the foresight and knowledge to know that like Outlook wasn't secure enough for medical records.
Oh yeah, there's so many. There's a whole bunch of 0 days.
Like a mistake. This is actually criminal. This isn't allowed. They're also in Ireland, but this isn't allowed in Europe, because doctors aren't even allowed to share medical info with each other without permission of the patient in Europe.
Right.
They aren't even allowed to do that. They can lose their job for it. They won't be able to practice their profession as a doctor anymore if they do this. So I'm not sure why Facebook is able to do this, but it's very shocking.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's tons of. I was muted myself. I was still talking, but yeah, there's tons of 0 days for Outlook, mainly because of their when you sign up for a Microsoft product or Microsoft account, it sets you up a Skype account, which is known to have many security flaws. That's how they get in. I can't believe that Facebook wouldn't have known that.
No, I actually, when I started, I said, hey, where's your tool, or where's all the records, medical records, so that I can review and get us into compliance. And they're like, oh, well, it's here in this email box. We're going to give you access to it. And they had no clue. Not only that, they were giving out, like, there's so many HIPAA violations. They would send these medical records to the manager. You're not allowed to do that. So this is not a space they should even play in. I'm not even comfortable.
No, because there are so many implications with that. You have also like there's also like a lot of people with like mental illnesses and stuff, and
right.
You can't share this around because you're putting people in like real risk.
Yeah. They did, and that's why there was so much discrimination, because they did these egregious violations to, confidentiality, disability discrimination laws, HIPAA, right? And they were oblivious. It's not like, oh, we're doing this and we don't care. They had no knowledge. They were really that behind the ball.
That's insane. And that just highlights why they should not get into the medical industry right there. If they get our medical records, it'll probably be all hacked and online within a matter of like days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they didn't sign all these confidentiality things either, like health professionals do, and. This is a commercial company should never be able to do this. I think there should be more emphasis on that. I mean, they need to stay out of the medical business.
Yeah. There's two places they really need to stay out of, and that's Libra and then this area. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Well, Libra is not even a cryptocurrency. It's basically like a online coupon where they're working with these other businesses like Uber and other businesses like that. So you can exchange your digital Facebook dollars for these services. So that's what they're doing. Yeah, they backed away from the cryptocurrency narrative, and now they're kind of using it as like an online points thing. So yeah, it's still a crazy concept though, because then they'll be able to connect your Uber account to your Facebook account. Like if you use Grubhub or whatever, they have partnered with Facebook. I don't know, it might be DoorDash or something, but they would be able to know that you just ordered this food from this service and like all sorts of different other things. I think that either Grubhub or DoorDash was one of their partners. I know Uber was. So that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and I thought Visa was too, or not anymore.
Some of them backed out. I know that Visa was one of the Visa or MasterCard was one of the ones that they had that backed out, or maybe it was PayPal. It was one of those three. But there's been a lot of companies that have backed out of Libra's agreement. So I think it'll be interesting to see if this even launches, because it doesn't look like it's going to be honest.
But then they will launch an alternative, because like one of the biggest things now on Facebook is Facebook Marketplace, and they want their own currency for the marketplace. And when it launches, it will be the largest currency in the planet, definitely. So whatever they will use it for, maybe they won't launch it through this way with the Libra thing, but they will need some kind of currency for usage on marketplace. That is like they will like give you like a credit, like say like you have credits in your Facebook profile, and you can exchange these credits to another Facebook user, for example, and you can buy something from this person, right? That's probably what they're going to do, because as long as these credits are on Facebook, they're not existing. They only become real money when they pay out. So they can make a lot of money with this.
Like, right, but how would those credits have value? That's what I'm saying. Like, because that's why they need the Libra angle. They need the Libra angle to back Libra with all of these currently existing fiat currencies in a basket of currencies, right? So that way that they can utilize that to give their coin value. Otherwise, point system, it doesn't give it value.
No, but let's say you talk about like a casino, for example, an online casino. So you upload money to this casino, your actual real money becomes like a virtual number, and it is worth nothing until it is paid out. So Facebook, it is like it has zero value while it is on Facebook, and they only have to like pay you out when you ask for a payout. So it is a huge way to collect a lot of money from people. Like incredible amounts.
They had like apps where you could buy digital in-game currencies and stuff like that, like with like Farmville and all the other apps they had going on. So I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me if they did do something like that. But I think that there's too many laws in place for them to legally do something like that. That's why they're going for the crypto angle, because crypto is such a unregulated industry right now that they can do a lot more than they can if they do an in-game point system. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I think eventually it is going to arrive, because they need it from marketplace, and I think they will actually do this. But it's just personal observation. I mean, I don't have proof for it. So.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying in regards to that, but like, I know this firsthand because I did the research for the business I'm working with. But I know it firsthand that like the in-game point system stuff is like tax loophole stuff. Like you can get around that, but if you're selling items for this in-game currency, it becomes a security. So I don't think that they could do that. Like they can do it for an in-game type of thing, but if you're selling physical items for a point system, right, then that becomes a legal issue. So I don't think that they could do that.
Yeah, but is Facebook actually selling the items, or is it users selling to each other?
No, it doesn't matter, because I looked this up. It doesn't matter. Like if you're facilitating and allowing the transactions, right, then you would be held responsible as a company. The users wouldn't be.
Okay. Yeah, so then you're talking about the whole public marketplace thing again, right?
You could do it. You can do it, but it has to be by the cryptocurrency, because there's it's an unregulated industry right now, and there's no law on the books saying that you can't have a crypto for exchange for an item. But if it's an in-game currency, right, it's not taxable. In-game currencies currently are not taxable unless they change that law in 2020. I don't know about it, but last year in-game currencies were not taxable, and the IRS made a big deal about it because gamers were kind of hoarding money in Fortnite, and they were selling items in Fortnite and stuff like that. So they made a big deal about it. So yeah, if you try to do something like that, there's laws, and it really won't fly. You have to have like a cryptocurrency backing those transactions, and it has to be a utility token. And the way Facebook wants to do it, with backing it by all of these all basket full of currencies, right? That's actually a security. So I mean, I don't know if they know what they're doing. I can understand from Kristine stories and everything that they probably don't know what they're doing. So
no, I have no faith in them. And again, just like other people have said, in passing when you've interviewed them. Internally, I'm surprised they're still operating and making a profit, because, again, even the L&D department is. I've never worked in a company that's so dysfunctional and run and put together and held together by duct tape, paper clips, and staples. Like that. That's the only way that I can explain how inefficient and dysfunctional the business, aside from the employees, is actually run. It's not professional.
And as Mark said earlier, I mean, that's crazy that that's coming from a business that's more rich than most countries.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of shocking.
What's the danger of monopoly? See, when you can be a bad monopoly company and still make money, it tells you, no competition. That's what you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
They set the price. They control the market.
Yeah, I mean, we went $1 million over budget in L&D, and no one batted an eye. And I'm like, okay, who did the? I'm trying to. I was managing the budget for them, so of course I'm going to flag this and then try to figure out what happened and how it could be prevented. And they just told me to let it go. So I let it go.
Yeah,
$1 million for Facebook, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
No, I read that in 2019 they made $70.7 billion.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, $1 million or $2 million is not going to bother them so much.
Well, Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say $70 billion. I mean, yeah, that really is the more wealth than most countries.
Yeah, definitely.
So so that's why they have that mentality, like, let it run as it is. We'll just throw more money at it to fix it, and we'll hire more people, and we'll create more teams. And so that's what they do. They just throw more money at their problems rather than addressing and fixing it.
Right, yeah. Because they've kind of built a behemoth where they're going to keep on getting more and more money, and they just keep on opening up new and different projects and buying and acquiring new older businesses, and then quote unquote fixing them up. Like for instance, Instagram. What's your opinion on Instagram being bought out by Facebook? And do you think that Facebook is going to focus more on Instagram now, or do you think that they're going to kind of try to destroy Instagram and get users back to Facebook, even though it's the same company? I mean,
right. And that's really interesting, but there is definitely a division between Facebook and Instagram. I'll be honest with you, because they have swag stores, I could buy swag for my daughters and I could get Instagram sweatshirts or Facebook. And they would tell me, like, don't ever bring home a Facebook t-shirt for us. Like, we're going to throw it in the garbage. And so I even though it's the same company, it's cannibalizing the profit margin, the users from Facebook. And I feel like as the population gets older, right, and whatnot, there already is a distinct difference between the demographics of Instagram versus the demographics over at Facebook. I feel like, and I have no proof, this is just my own opinion, but I do feel like because of Mark's ego and Facebook, and this was his baby and he thinks it's his invention, I think that they're going to try to manipulate Instagram to make Facebook more popular. I don't know if you noticed, but all those Instagram live DJ parties that they've been having during COVID, and I remember on Twitter seeing that like Mark made an appearance and all these people are like, oh, he's so cool. So that kind of triggered me to think like, okay, he may not try to demolish Instagram, but rather use it to try and make him and Facebook cool again, so that the users go over there.
We also saw that Instagram started removing likes. Where was it? It was like a demographic thing. They did it in some countries. They did an experiment where they were removing likes, so people couldn't like things anymore. So I think like things like that, like if they roll that out fully, I think that would completely destroy it. Like.
Yeah. Well, we saw with Facebook in the past when Twitter is like another company, but Twitter was like gaining a lot of popularity, and then Facebook started to run with the whole hashtag system too. That Twitter did. Yeah, and before that they didn't do that really. Yeah, it was probably possible to search for hashtags too, but they started to like go into that far more. And I see that Instagram is really obsessed with hashtags, and they're like. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. Like, I feel like that's how their algorithms are based, or like on the hashtags. And I agree that even when I use my Instagram, I hashtag way more than I do on Facebook. But I see a lot of people doing that. And I just think like he just tries to steal ideas or features from other companies, other social media companies that are similar, even his own company, Instagram. Like, look at how many features they've incorporated from Instagram they've incorporated some, wasn't it the stories, or who came up with that one first?
Yeah, I think it was Instagram.
It was Instagram. And before that it was Snapchat. So It was Snapchat, then Instagram, then Facebook. They released their stories and everything, yeah.
Right. So he has a pattern of doing this. It's clear even today with, how he announced, I'm going to do work from home for my employees over the next 5 to 10 years. It's like, well, nothing that comes from Facebook is ever an original thought, is what I've basically concluded.
Yeah. Isn't that copying Jack Dorsey saying the same thing?
Right. I'm like, didn't Twitter do this first?
I just noticed, or not just noticed, but I noticed as well, like Mark, when Twitter had the hashtags thing going on and it started getting really, really popular, Facebook copied that model almost instantly. And then they started pushing out the whole hashtags thing too. So, I mean, yeah, it really does seem like Facebook kind of takes the best ideas from other companies and implements them into their own network. I don't think that there's any way that you can patent the hashtag system to kind of like make it so others can't use it. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense. But still, I think it's very interesting that they copy features like that.
Yeah, I've read they own over 4,000 different patents, Facebook, and most are like acquired from other former social media. So, yeah, they adapt a lot. They adopt a lot into their own system to, yeah, kind of like become everything.
Right. And so now it's confusing. Like like you said, what are they? Right. Because they're the jack of all trades, but the master of none. I mean, they're now, like you said, marketplace, there's social media. Mm-hmm. Now we have news. Now we have, Oculus, we have workplace. And it's like, it's like they're trying to do what Amazon did, but it's just not as organized.
No. And they're also like getting into the whole video business, but I think they're kind of like failing on that. But it seems to be deliberate. Like I mentioned it before, like you have to literally sign up to a Facebook to watch a video, or else you will get these annoying pop-ups, or you get like thrown out. It's like they're trying to drag you into the network, and then when you're in, you can watch all these great videos. And yeah, so yeah, like you're saying, they're becoming a jack of all trades, and pretty much want to like encompass everything. I'm surprised they're not doing like Facebook email yet, like kind of like a Gmail copy.
Well, you just gave them the idea.
Right, they're listening to us more than likely.
Oh my God, yeah.
Say hi.
I know, but I think people think that I'm paranoid, but I will not put Facebook product apps on my phone anymore.
I've got them blocked too, so yeah, I'm right there with you.
I went into a deposition and they brought up information that I'm questioning, like, how did you get this information? And so that's kind of what triggered, like, no more.
No, we've seen the logs. Like there are people exposing the fact that Facebook like logs everyone you called to and who called you, even though you never shared it with Facebook. So yeah, that's what they do, actively do, and they have these aggressive patterns. I've read about this before. They have aggressive patterns to log into your webcam without the light turning on. So I personally think it's a lot worse than you even think, and you're far less paranoid than you think. I mean, so technically they can log into your webcam and without the light turning on.
They also
they can do it. Microphone too, the same thing. So
sorry, I thought you were done. I was just gonna say they also have the kind of deals with some of these mobile providers where Facebook is automatically installed onto your phone, and if you try to uninstall it, all you can do is disable it. You can't uninstall it. You can't delete it unless you root your phone.
That's weird.
Yeah. A lot of these prepaid provider phones, Facebook has deals with where it's automatically installed on your phone, especially Android related. It's automatically installed on your phone. You can't remove it. You can disable it, but even if you disable it, it's still technically running in a process. So it's like, what is going on here? Like, how do they have that? Like, I don't understand why Facebook is allowed to do something like that. And the only way to really disable Facebook's app in a lot of phones is to root your phone and then uninstall it with like titanium root or whatever it's called. I haven't rooted a phone in like forever, so I don't remember. But there used to be a app where you could uninstall apps using a root, and you use that to uninstall system apps. And Facebook is a system app, um, according to this app. So, yeah. Tyler probably knows a little bit about that. If he's there.
Tyler.
It's late again.
I guess he went AFK for a minute.
Yeah, well, it is true actually. It is standard delivered by a lot of phones, and they even promoted with it, like the Facebook app pre-installed, and you couldn't uninstall it. It was like a big scandal. It doesn't make your phone more popular, I guess. I mean, people want to have control over their stuff, so, and I don't get that part. It's not a wise move, I guess.
It's not, but they still do it. I don't understand, like, why and how Facebook is allowed to do that when there's supposed to be all these privacy protections in place, and it's just a joke.
It's almost like they've been granted some kind of, almost like police, some kind of immunity. They just blanket do these things and don't even care. They don't get caught.
Yeah, I have never known them to actually get caught and pay the price that they should pay, right? And that's why they continue to do this, because they literally evade and they're above the law.
Well, I mean, being funded by InQtel, which is the CIA's venture capital arm, would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe, but that is not the same thing for other countries in the world. I mean, the world is not just the USA, and the CIA has no jurisdiction in other countries. They might believe they have, but they don't have it. So, Facebook should still abide to other laws too. They have to actually think about this, because it's not going to last. I mean, you can't just accept it. The GDPR was a big hit against them, and there's going to be a lot more coming. I can tell you that. So.
Yeah, there's actually antitrust lawsuits that are going. They're statewide now. State attorney generals are initiating investigations into antitrust lawsuits against Facebook and Google. Right now, Google just got hit really, really hard, and I know that Facebook is next in these pending investigations. And then Amazon is also another culprit that's going to get hit as well. So I think it's be very interesting to see if in the U.S. here any of those come out like with any like real fines, because right now it's been a joke over and over again with these companies. Like millions of dollars, really? Like these companies are worth at least couple hundred million or $1 billion, and you're only giving them a slap on the wrist. So
Right. And after they paid that fine, did they ever create laws to protect what they violated? Because see, that's the problem is that great, you can fine these companies, but then what are you doing to regulate the behavior? And I think that's the big piece that is being missed here.
Yeah, because these fines are not going to work. They just write these off as costs, and they will pay less taxes. So this is just how it works. They don't even lose anything. These fines are too low.
Yeah, I mean, again, $5 million fine, slap on the wrist for Facebook. That $5 million is probably just remade within a couple of days. Like, like Facebook has so many avenues for revenue. They have paid ads, they have selling user data, they have various contract deals with other companies. I mean, come on, $5 million, that's nothing for them.
No, but it is not going to be even paid by them. It's going to be just a tax cut, so to speak. They will pay less taxes. So they will make the same amount of money. They just have to they have an additional cost, like an investment, right? And they will have to pay less tax, so just less income for the tax revenue thing. So, but yeah, these fines are just too low. But yeah, you need actual laws after that to stop them from doing it. Just
Right.
continue.
And we're not doing that in the US. Like, I don't think that they were regulated or there were any laws to protect user data, whatnot afterwards. And it's just, all they do is like, I'll buy my way out of it, right? And they consistently buy their way out of it. And so you're right, unless you have those laws, the behavior is not going to change.
Yeah, but you are also dealing with the fact that they've become so big that they become so important for local businesses too.
Yeah.
At least these local businesses believe that. They need their Facebook page to promote their products, and they will all be there to sell their stuff. And that includes like the larger businesses these days too. So it becomes so big that it becomes crucial for these economies, and that's why they have some kind of leverage, or at least over local governments. And we've seen that with Google in the past too. They had like Google News Service, and it was blocked in Spain for a while because they also they didn't comply with like the local laws, and they were taken offline in Spain. But it actually started to hurt the Spanish businesses more than it hurt Google. So they restored everything, even though they were like against the law, local law. So, and that's what you see too. But big countries do take the steps. We have the example with Google Street View in the past in Germany. Street View is very important for people too these days. It's for promotion. Google Maps, the whole system promotes businesses these days. But Germany did start a lawsuit against Google and forced them to take out the numbers of the houses, the license plates of the cars, the faces had to be wiped out of Google Street View. People might not remember that before that Google Street View was just showing the face of everyone.
Yeah, and the license plate, like you said.
Yeah, and they were showing everything. And the Germans actually stopped this with a whole huge privacy lawsuit. And because Germany was so big, they had to comply with it. They complied with it.
Good on Germany. More of that, please. Like, these big companies, they need to be kind of curtailed from doing these practices.
Yeah, the German law is very strict on privacy. Thank God, they still are. But yeah.
Yeah. They also just started Germany just started a fake news ministry or something like that, where now they are judging whether something is fake news or not. And if it is, they require the companies to remove the content within, I think it's like 48 hours or 72 hours. And if they don't, they get fined a ridiculous amount of money. So that's another thing too, like with fake news and stuff like that. These like governments are actually getting involved in this, and that's really scary. Like that's Orwell level stuff where the government can decide what information you're allowed to know. And for instance, let's say that somebody reports on a massive corruption scandal, right? And the government's like, well, you're not allowed to know that. We want it removed. That's it. It's all shut down. And, you know, that's scary. That could lead us into tyranny very, very fast. And it doesn't have to be now. It could be in the future. But the thing is, if we put in those systems now, you know, we're enabling that tyrant in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like a tyrant has already been enabled, right? And it continues to be. It'll be interesting to see where all of this goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is definitely a different form of a tyrant. I mean, he doesn't run a country, yet he has so much power over everybody. And just imagine if he becomes president. I mean, he'll be able to, I mean, the biggest conflict of interest will be him owning Facebook and even starting Facebook, because it's the world's biggest social media site. So, I mean, it's like, how can you run for president if you started the world's biggest social media site? You could manipulate everything on the social media site, even if you don't own it and you step down. I mean, you still know people that work there. You could still have somebody there manipulating things for you. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I just don't even know what gave him the idea that he would run for president. Like, that's just one of the most ludicrous. I mean, I've heard it, but I just thought, wow, who's lying to you? Do you have yes men, encouraging you to do this? I mean, I know how Facebook works internally, and it's just like, gosh, like, our economy is tanked now. I couldn't imagine if it was in good condition. Hypothetically, Zuckerberg's president, like, he can't even run Facebook. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Trump just deregulated everything in the financial markets. So, I mean, he already helped out the future president, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
He deregulated everything. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, what? What? You really just said that? You said to deregulate all financial institutions that will help prevent the economy from rising. I'm like, well, you do know those were put in there to protect mainstream investors from fraud of the big Wall Street guys. Like, that is crazy. So, I mean, like, the economy will go propped up again. It'll just all be our fraud.
Right.
Yeah, well, the US is not the biggest growth market for Facebook. I think it probably will be India at this point. They will make the money there. So, because there's like 1 billion people in India, so that's the huge growth market. They will have lots of profit coming from there, and whatever happens in the USA, what they will lose there, they will gain in such places. So.
Oh, absolutely. And you want to know something is that I feel like that was one of the few markets that he could go to, because in Europe, he already tanked his reputation, and Facebook did too, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have the US. And then in China, that suicide was very serious. And it got all around social media, like over 1 million views. And in fact, the Chinese government was really upset and wanted to open an investigation as to what happened to this citizen, right? And so they really tanked their reputation in China too. So India was the only place that they could go where he's actually still idolized. And they idolize him there for some reason. I have no clue why, but.
Well, he could probably go to Africa too. I mean, like, there's parts of Africa that are rich and actually have internet service and phones and everything. Like, Akon said, I saw in a recent interview, he said that all Africans in Africa actually have cell phones. And I was like, well, wait, what? He was like, yeah, he was like, in the interview, he said that Africans actually exchange cell phone cards for items in the country, which I thought was very interesting. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So they're using a alternative currency. They're using what's it called? Time cards, I think they're called, for like time credits for your phone. And they're using that and exchanging that for goods within the country, because their currency is so shit. Like, it fluctuates in value so much that they would rather use those cell phone cards than their own currency. So, I mean, he might be able to go there. Like, he could probably go there and in India, but I think that he's pretty much screwed his reputation, like you said, in Europe and the US. So.
Yeah, but the thing is wasn't Jack Dorsey going to open up a headquarters or an office in Africa at one point before COVID?
Yeah, he said that he said that he lives in South Africa or something like that. I was like, wait, what? You do?
I know it's so crazy. But here's the deal is that so I don't see Africa, and this is truly my opinion. And the reason why I don't see Africa is because I've seen how they treat Black people in Facebook, and they just do not like them. I have a Medium blog, and after I was terminated, probably about 4 months later, 3 months later, 19 Facebook employees came out and wrote an open letter. And I know who some of these people were because I recognize their stories. And they basically said that Facebook has a Black people problem. And I think that that's what would stop him from going there. And that would be a last resort. And it's a pretty bad problem. It's not like, oh, I'm racist. It's like there's a dislike for Black people. So for me, I see Africa as the last resort.
Okay.
Interesting insight.
Yeah, there's 19 other people that wrote a Medium blog post after I left that there's still a Black people problem in Facebook and that, they're not being treated right.
Yeah, that's again, that's shocking to come from a company that's so large. I mean, geez, discrimination of color in well, you were working there in 2016, right? So, I mean, but still, I mean, that's in the 21st century. That's crazy.
Right. And so literally they wrote their blog post probably made August or September of 2019.
Oh, wow. So that wasn't that long ago then. It was only a couple months ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I can shoot you that open letter that they wrote to Facebook if you'd like, or I don't know. It's on Medium, so you can always look for it.
Yeah, you can send everything in this chat or to any of us on Twitter or wherever.
This is from the blind FB 2020 account on Medium. This says there's an article, Facebook empowers racism against its employees of color, and it is from FB Blind, 7 November 2019.
Yep.
Okay. It's very interesting that Medium hasn't censored you yet, because Medium is connected to, I think, Twitter and Facebook in some ways. Like some of the people who work there, I know they censored me and completely destroyed everything that I wrote on there. So
that's horrible.
Yeah, we are like everyone on this team lost accounts there and pages and all kind of stuff. So we don't directly broadcast to there anymore. We do actually have a page on there, but we literally advertise streams outside of Facebook on it. So.
That's crazy. Yeah, my account hasn't been banned, and I wrote I authored a couple of blog posts, speaking of my experiences, responding to that open letter. I gave them an open response, and then I wrote about my experiences, my personal experiences beyond that. So yeah, and it's still up, but I haven't received traction. So I'm thinking there's algorithms that they're using to bury my stories.
Yeah,
so,
that's a possibility too.
M team, that means media team. Inside Facebook, I mean, I'm just reading.
No, the M team is not the media team. The M team is the executive team.
Okay. Yeah, because I was reading this the part from an article you mentioned, and it says So bad behaviors from non-POCs are elevated, while normal actions from POCs are treated as aggressive, angry, and abnormal. Even positive ratings are shared with a negative, threatening tone. And then they say, if this post gets any outside attention, the response will be met by M Team as we view as we view diversity as important, or this behavior is not acceptable, and we will increase our efforts to make things better, and then the cycle will repeat. So these are like these guys responding to it, but then they will just carry on with the whole racism thing against employees of color.
Yeah. And so the team consists of like the executives, like Mark, Cheryl, and Mark actually did respond to that post and say, we're going to do everything to change. And they did another blog post because nothing changed.
Okay. Yeah, and these like these former employees, they also say like we fear for our safety, our career prospects, and the potential spotlight. And they also don't have the resources to take action against Facebook. We cannot afford to be vulnerable externally because Facebook has made us a vulnerable target internally. The only thing we can hope for in this cathartic exercise is to influence change by sharing our stories and hope that no one else experiences the same discriminatory behaviors that we have. Okay, well, this is a very shocking article, at least. So, for listeners, it's called Facebook Empowers Racism Against Its Employees of Color, and it's on medium.com. You can find it on any search engine. That's real quick.
Yeah, I'll look that up or send it to me, and I'll share it. That's very interesting. You said that there's 19 employees, current employees or former?
I'm not sure if it's like 19 or 12 or 14. Because I read it a while ago, but so some of them left because I still have rogue contacts there, and I can't say who they are because they still work there, and if they're tied to me, it's going to be hell. So there's some of them that still work there, and there's some of them that have left. I think the last time when I spoke to the person that wrote a piece of that article, 3 people, I think it's the Facebook 12. So 3 people out of the 12 left.
Okay.
Wow. That is interesting. So it's both former and current employees that are criticizing racial discrimination at Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's why they had to stay anonymous, because if they would reveal themselves while working there, you can already imagine what would happen.
Right. Yeah, and then it'd be an enemy. And I can't even say the word, but you know what I mean? That's needed for whistleblowers and everything. It's needed for people to be able to speak to power and also to get their stories out there.
Right.
Yeah, and if you can band together, you should, because otherwise they will just like categorize and put it away as incidents, and you can't have that because nothing will ever change then. So you have to stick together on it and form teams. So it's very nice to have either like 12 or 19. It doesn't really matter. If it's more than 1 or 2, it's already too much. So
Right.
So we've been doing like on different social media, we've been doing like a whole delete Facebook campaign, right? It's been going on for some time, and some people are actually leaving. But what do you think besides just leaving Facebook? What can people do to actually help change things?
Yeah. There were people that actually protested outside when that suicide happened, and that absolutely did nothing. And I truly believe the only way to hurt them is to delete Facebook. That's the only way that they're going to acknowledge what they do and make changes. There's several people that have tried the legal route where, they've tried to sue Facebook and that hasn't worked. Again, protest hasn't worked. Employee uprising hasn't worked. I don't even think lawsuits have worked with, the FCC lawsuit. Was it the FCC? And then the HUD lawsuit, that didn't help. Yeah, I mean, we're still in the same space that we were before. They just paid out $5 million. So I truly believe the only way that this can, people can support is to just literally delete Facebook. And then let's pray to God that you get your social media site up soon so that we have an alternative, or there's alternatives for us to go to.
Yeah, there's several alternatives that are already around. Like we have minds.com, we have float.app. I know the founders over there. The site that I'm working on, I don't really want to plug it in here, but I guess I will. Somi.social. And there's other websites like Mastodon. Am I forgetting any, Mark? Hive.blog. There's other websites for social media. So, I mean, like, I think what has to happen is capitalism has to take over. And, they have to have their business share taken from them by another company. And I don't know how fast that can happen. But Gab AI is another one too. Like there's all types of social medias out there. But the problem that I see with it is that a lot of these social media sites have been building their sites surrounding a certain niche of users. So for instance, like Gab AI is very, very centered towards the right and the far right in politics. So you won't have other opinions from leftists on there, or liberals or whatever you want to call the other side. So, we need to be able to have a social media site where we can all discuss things openly and, debate. Like we need to be able to freely debate things. Otherwise, society is going to go down on the drain if we don't have a place where we can have democratic free debates and speak about our problems as compared to having certain issues censored.
Yeah, the niche thing is a problem. It won't have it won't collect everyone, but it is also a powerful tool against them, because if you focus on a niche and you can get like all these people at least like on your niche website, they will be less concerned with Facebook. And of course, if you have enough niches, they will lose like the majority of things, right? And the same thing is with country-based social networks. It sounds like kind of like a nationalist thing, but you do have alternatives. Like in China, you have social media that is as big as Facebook, and they don't use Facebook because they use their own stuff, and. So, and we used here, even in here, we used to have a website called Hives, and it was as big as Facebook back then. It was I think it was on its top, it had even more users than Facebook has now in our country, and it collapsed under the weight of Facebook because Facebook entered the market, and you could actually talk to people outside of your country, and everything was in Dutch here, but it was a serious competitor, and I think there are ways to do it, and you can of course focus on privacy. If the privacy is the biggest issue on Facebook, then focus on that. I mean, obviously everyone who's concerned with privacy will go to your pro-privacy network.
I think privacy is just one of the things that people need to worry about when it comes to Facebook. There's other things that's going on with Facebook besides privacy-related issues.
The censorship thing and the control of the net.
Yeah. Not just the censorship and privacy though. That controlling your information. I guess that would kind of go in with censorship, but it's still a different category in my book, because censorship is like deleting a post, and then like controlling a narrative is in my opinion different. So I mean, like on Facebook, they're kind of trying to control the news, and the thing is, like, if they're trying to control the news, some of the things that are being spoken about, like, are factually related topics. Like, for instance, and I argued with a fact checker over this. I said to him, like, there's literal proof that the government has been spraying chemical trails. And I'm not saying that they're spraying it for weather control or any of that. I'm saying that Operation LAC existed, and they sprayed chemicals and infected people, gave people various different conditions because they sprayed them with chemicals. And I cited the documents, sent them everything, and like they just shrugged me off. So it's like there's a problem there with control, and then there's no way to appeal when you're flagged, and then that's it. You're screwed. You get completely not only just censored, but you have your reach cut for your account. All of a sudden, you had like millions of followers, right? But those millions of followers don't matter, because now they're restricting your content to only be sent to like 50 people or something like that. Like, that's what's going on here. And it's absolutely insane that people are allowed to do this, and they're destroying, in general, I can tell you, they're destroying the alternative media. So if that's their goal, that's what they're doing. They destroyed anti-media. I know the guys over there. They destroyed that website completely. They could not continue anymore because of the topics and things that they were posting was way too controversial, and they were getting flagged left and right. Collective Evolution is also getting censored. Activist Post is getting censored. We Are Change is getting censored. The Mind Unleashed is getting censored. Zero Hedge is banned on Facebook. So, like all these like different.
This show is actually being censored there too, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah,
you could share it twice, and if they shared it 3 times, they were locked out of their account. So.
Yeah, and you told me that was happening too, like for sharing my articles from Activist Post. Like all of a sudden, like you get locked out of the account for sharing my articles, and it's like, well, what is this? Like why are you censoring so many people? And then they try to say that like we're like Russian agents or something, and I'm like, I'm a fucking American, and most of these websites are ran by Americans. I know them. They're my friends. It's like, what is going on here? Like they're spinning narratives and saying that the people who have no real reason to professionally lie to you, like we get paid like next to nothing, but we do all the research that the mainstream media should do. And it's like they are lying to people and spinning things. And I didn't think it was that bad until, again, where I got like said that I said that meteor was going to hit the earth, and I'm like, no, I did not say that. What the fuck? Why are you saying this? Like, why are you smearing me? And it's like, I can't do anything. I can't fight back against it. So it's like, that's what they're doing. They're destroying people's livelihoods. And the only way to get around that is to move on to another site. And that's what we all have to do.
Absolutely. And, not only are they destroying your lives, they practice on their employees too, and like I said, what you're experiencing right now is everything that an employee who experiences a problem within Facebook, right? Like if you claim discrimination, they have their own investigative panel that will make a determination. And they usually say no, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're stuck, right? And then, so if you compare the two, even though they're two different things, they're the same tactics, right? They're basically, you're experiencing what I basically experienced as an employee within those walls with my own career. This is your career. Yeah. And so I see a lot of similar patterns here that are being exposed. And like I said, the great social experiment here, are they practicing on us to then turn around and use the same tactics on the public to destroy, your campaign because it's misinformation, and they're using the same patterns, the same tactics that they used on employees with you guys.
Yeah. That the last thing I'll say on that is that personally myself, right, I cite everything I write to the teeth. Like any of my readers know, anything that I say and claim, there's a link there for a citation for what I'm saying. I'm not spreading like quote unquote fake news as they say I am. I'm giving out information, and the thing is, if I write something that's speculative, right, I say it. Like, and a lot of these journalists don't. So it's not fair to go after the independent media and those who are independent freelance journalists with these big corporations that are registered as fact checkers. And the thing is, like, they blacklisted us just recently with a plugin called NewsGuard too. So I mean, like NewsGuard is operated or not operated. It's their advisors are intelligence. Like, they have the former DHS head on their advisory board. They have the former CIA director, Michael Hayden, on their advisory board. And it's like, why are we letting the intelligence agencies control what information we are now allowed to read? It's crazy. It's a crazy world that we're kind of entering now. And I just am very shocked by your own stories coming out of Facebook, because it kind of just confirms to me what I already thought, that they were trying to control the narrative and what information and censor people and everything else. So, I mean, it's just a power struggle.
Literally, it's like a David and Goliath power struggle, right? And they have so much power to do this. And and the government sees this. I mean, look at all of the candidates like Elizabeth Warren that say, oh, we have to do this with Facebook and they need to be regulated. And that one senator, I think Katie Porter, was going to go after Facebook. And it's like nothing ever comes to fruition. Like, it's lip service. And so, but the good news is that everybody's waking up and seeing this, right? Like, very few people are blinded by the fact that Facebook is a continual bad actor. Like, everybody sees Facebook for what it is, but I don't think they understand the egregiousness of all of the acts that they've done collectively.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that they work with groups such as NewsGuard is like is shocking, because that's like the most aggressive entity there is right now against free press. I mean, they literally categorized WikiLeaks as fake news. It has like a 100% credibility score. WikiLeaks has never had to retract anything, and it is tagged as unreliable. So I don't get that whole part. But
they blanket ban people. Like, they don't even look at individual stories. They look at the websites, and then all of a sudden you're under a blanket blacklist. And on top of that, NewsGuard owns a site called BrandGuard. So they're trying to destroy businesses and trying to destroy independent media organizations. That is their goal.
NewsGuard is also trying to get into internet service providers. So just saying, since 2019 they have started to talk with UK internet service providers to have their whole credibility system embedded into the ISPs. So you would like browse to a website from your computer, and you would see like a warning message, and the internet service provider would deliver this. Yeah. So.
Oh my God! And then, again, this organization is backed with intelligence on their advisory board, and like it's not just one or two people. There's a whole list of people that are involved in intelligence that were on their advisory board. And I believe Tom Ridge is one of them too. So it's like all of these people are advising this company. That is scary, man. That is very scary.
Yeah. Tyler, are you still?
Yeah, I'm here. We have 7 minutes till.
Yeah.
We gotta go.
Okay.
And we done a full 4 hours with you, Kristine.
Wow, thank you guys. I really enjoyed my time here. I think we really had a great discussion, and I hope this information helps others.
Yeah, and we should continue this talk maybe in the future. And I want to ask you, like, how can people reach you if they want to learn more? What's the best way?
So you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle's K Sato, and that's SATO_Phillips, PHILLIPS. I'm on Instagram as well under KellyBorn73. And I'm even on Facebook, but I keep my Facebook because I actually post all of my negative stuff about Facebook on Facebook. Because I really want to see if they're going to take my stuff down so that I can escalate an issue.
Yeah, and it's a way to actually inform the Facebookers, right? I mean,
right, and I have over 5,000 followers, so to delete that would really impact my reach.
Yeah.
So okay, so social media.
Yeah, no, so people, so listeners can reach you there, and we will also post it below the stream, and so this makes it a little easier, maybe. And I don't know if any of you other guys have some remaining questions, maybe.
Not at the moment.
I don't know.
Not really.
Okay, well,
PSA.
Okay, well,
to that point.
Okay, it's 4 hours, so yeah. But no, I just want to say thank you for coming on with us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I thank you so much, and I'm so grateful that you brought me on, and thank you for this opportunity. And please stay connected with me. And if you want to have another powwow again, I'm definitely open to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
And should I just roll out with the credits?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Preston has to say his catchphrase.
Yeah. You have to spay, or ABB PSA is you have to spay and neuter all politicians.
And with that, we'll roll out.
Be sure to.
You forgot a lobbyist.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful
lobbying
assembly.